I've had a lot of fights, Val. I've won because I've always understood the way my enemy thinks. And when I truly understand them,
You also love them.
cha-ching.
Oh, so cute.
That is a quote straight from Admiral Happy End. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I am your host, not the Space Queen, Robert.
I am Chaos. I love this movie. I felt right at home with all the destruction and the genocide. Let me
Whoa.
just on my chest.
I'm your mad scientist. I'm a Formics scientist this week. Ray down in South Florida, otherwise known as Australia.
I think you forgot a South.
I always do. It's really hard to remember how many there are.
And who do we have here? I remember this face. It's the second time, right? Am I mistaken?
He had so much fun with us. He came back.
I had to come back. I couldn't get enough. Don't stop till you get enough. Yep.
Awesome. So we have Anthony Funter, Alpha Audio Drama. And if you're not listening, like I said last time, I don't know what's wrong with you. So welcome. Thank you for coming back again to our show.
Hey, it's great to be here.
And he's still quoting the original Total Recall.
Oh man. Well, it's such a great movie. You know.
Oh, it is. It is. It's awesome. Such a classic. Okay, so
what have you guys been watching?
I have been rewatching. I don't know if you guys out there, hopefully if you listen long enough to us, you probably have heard we have done an episode on each of the movies that I just rewatched. One is Wife Like by writer-director James Bird. We had a great interview. Well, I shouldn't call it interview. It was a great conversation with the writer-director on our show. And it's such a great movie. If you want to hear more of our thoughts on that, you can just go back to our back catalog and search for a movie Wife Like. But that was such a great film. I really enjoyed rewatching that. Another one that I watched that I can't wait to do an episode on, and we might have. I'm still trying. We might have the writer-director of that film with us to talk about this film, and the film is Levels.
I see that's why we haven't done it yet, because you're still fishing.
Pretty much. Well, technically, he agreed. It's just that we haven't had the time. He's been very busy lately, so I'm cautious of his time. But if you want to know who we're talking about Adam Stern. And if you go down our back catalog, just look for a great short film, FTL. It was an amazing conversation that we had about that short film. You can also catch that short film on YouTube. All you got to do is just just search for FTL.
It's in the Dust channel, I believe.
Levels. Isn't that the one with Kara G from The Expanse?
Oh, yes.
That's the one.
Huge fan.
And remember, boys and girls, always put your space helmet on before you go to FTL.
Yes, please.
Safety first.
That is a internal joke there. If you want to get the meaning of it, you might want to go down our back catalog and listen to our FDL episode.
If you don't put your helmet, it'll get as messy as.
Well, maybe you want to take your helmet off, based on what we see in the film we're going to cover today. So I don't know. It's a personal choice, I guess. And that is all I have been watching so far, sci-fi related. Who's next?
What about you, Mr. Chaos?
Well, me, I've been watching actually very sci-fi, but weird. It makes me feel like I'm watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on Space. I've been watching Terraformers. Very interesting anime, to be honest, bro. It's an anime about colonizing Mars, as you might expect. But there's cockroaches over there that look like giant gorillas that are super powerful. And in order for us to fight them, we mutate into insects likes that can predate on them. It's very interesting. I'll leave it at that. Uh, I think that Anthony has seen it, so he knows how funny it is.
Mm.
They are not shying away of brutality on it, which is
Mm-mm.
right up my alley. I love it.
Okay. The big question is, Gio, the big
Eh?
question is, the huge question I should say is it Robert approved?
I don't know. You know that I feel inclined to say yes, even though I know it's not.
No, it's, yeah.
Look, Anthony. Robert, I tried to get Robert into Demon Slayer, and he broke down on the very first episode just with the drama
What?
of Nezuko.
Robert.
Yeah,
It's what I
Come
tell him.
on.
It's what I tell him. Like to me, I don't know if it's because anime in Japanese film culture in general, they kind of overplay the nerve of brutality and oh, poor little me. So when I see it, I don't feel so sad about it anymore. You know?
Oh yeah, you're desensitized. Got
But
it.
in
Yeah,
the
it's like whenever I see it, I hear Naruto's sad song with the flute.
But in the
But
other
Robert
hand,
managed to watch Terminator Zero, and that was pretty
Yeah.
brutal.
it was
Yeah.
good, and I like Event Horizon, and I like actually the entire Alien saga. So yeah, try to figure me out.
You're not one.
We
bro.
need to do Romulus. We haven't done Romulus.
Yes.
Yep. Well, I've been playing, which is sci-fi too, Days Z, survival pain in the ass, to be honest. Cyberpunk 2077, always playing that. And Exo Primal, which I think is amazing. I kind of like that PvE, PvP, exosuits fighting style. There was a game that I loved, which was a great idea with a horrible execution called Anthem. And I think that Exo Primal is a little bit picking up after that, but not really the final product yet. So I'm still waiting to see like the perfected version of what Exo Primal and Anthem should have been. If anybody knows about some suggestions, please bring them my way because I'm dying to play something like that. Hey, that's all.
You like Titanfall?
Titanfall? Oh yeah, I
There
love
we
it.
go. Yeah. I like that game. Is what it's getting pretty old at this point.
Yeah, still running.
But it's still go. Yeah, it's still hopping.
There's
Yeah,
talk
hell
of
yeah.
a movie coming out.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
I hate it that the campaign you can finish it in less than an hour and a half. I think
Yeah, short but sweet.
kind of like For Honor, same thing. It's like the campaign is like a tutorial and then it's just PvP, but it's pretty cool. I love Titanfall, and that's all, man. What about you, Anthony? Because Ray's gonna be the last one.
Oh, let's see here. I've been watching. Oh gosh, what's the name of that new Star Wars movie? I just blanked out on it.
Robert knows it probably.
The one where they're all kids and stuff.
It's Skeleton Crew.
What?
Is it a Skeleton Crew?
Yeah, Skeleton Crew. Oh my gosh, yeah. I've been watching Skeleton Crew, and
Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean basically like I'm a couple episodes in, and it's basically like Goonies meets Star Wars,
That's
Which
what
is-
everybody says.
which makes sense because like the people who made that show, who made Skeleton Crew, I think they go on and on about Emblem Entertainment, which is super 80s.
Yeah. Gio likes the Acolyte, so
The Acolyte.
I didn't hate it. Honestly, I liked it more than
Well,
Ray.
you're in the minority.
Yeah,
When just you hear it here first, right? The quote is, "He did not hate it."
honestly, I think that a lot of destructive criticism being given without full view of it. So I decided of watching the whole thing by myself so I can make my own opinion about it instead of just taking somebody else secondhand critics.
Yes.
Sure.
And I think that they went far amiss with a lot of things that will be canon, but I'm not an all knowing Star Wars fans to be really on the fence with that. And I think that they did a lot of risky moves that worked out fine to me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you should always, check something out. Don't always take someone else's word for it. You do your own research, kind of thing. Having said that, I watched like half the first episode and I turned that shit right off.
Well, entertainment is always subjective. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
some people can enjoy stuff that other people don't like. I'm looking at you, Gio and Robert. So
Whoa,
I liked it better
That's
than
fired.
the Force Awakens. I'm just gonna leave that out there.
yeah,
Wow,
I think Gio is trying to start something.
I think that's what it sounds like. Gio, you need to.
That's what I'm all here for. What's my name?
got
Chaos.
to be starting something. Got to be starting something.
Geo started fire.
Oh,
It was not a Star Trek and it wasn't Star Wars. Geo started fire.
I do have to agree with something that was said here, though. You have to be willing to make decisions for yourself. I have not watched that, and I refuse to comment until I watched it, because this is something that kind of bugs me, and Gio knows about this because we talked about this, especially on Cowboy Bebop and how they canceled Cowboy Bebop because people were talking online how horrible it was.
They
Netflix
ruined it,
didn't
bro.
make
It was so
and then
good.
they
I
ruined
love Cowboy Bebop, man. I hated that they canceled the live action. I think it was brilliant.
I hear a lot of people that actually watched it because, oh, I didn't watch it because people said it sucked, and I watched it now and it's amazing. It's like, thank you, but
You know,
you were part of the problem.
without going deep into it, I think that there's an epidemic nowadays of lack of thinking, and it's what I call the TLDR group. Too long didn't read. People don't want to do any investment on like long formats or watching a full episode. If it's not on a short that it goes not longer than 30 minutes, 30 seconds, they don't bother on it. And I think that that's really affecting a lot of good things that have survived throughout the years and evolving to better things. I think that that's the importance of long format and you taking the time really to enjoy what you like consuming and not trying to really minimize it to something simple as 30 seconds. Cannot really get much out of 30 seconds. There's no conversation in 30 seconds, you know?
Now, before we go to Ray, because it's Ray's turn now, I just want to say, I want to make it clear, it is okay if you hate the thing. That's perfectly fine. All I'm saying is watch it and then tell me I hate it because this and this and this and this. And it's okay. It's totally fine. I hate a lot of things. You hear on the show. I mean, I'm the butt of jokes here. When what was the anime you want me to watch, and I refuse. There you go. But it's okay. I hate it. You guys love it. It's all about entertainment. It's all about what you find good, what you find good enough to spend the little time we have left in our lives, which because we all have busy lives, and it's okay. Just want to make sure that that's clear. Just take the time to decide for yourself if you hate it or love it. Ray.
Finally, God! Every time it's nearly my turn, somebody wants to say something else. Shit. I'll just rush through a few things. Shangri-La Frontier on Crunchyroll, which is still going. That show just gets so many episodes. It's crazy. And they have battles that last like 4 episodes. So that's like over an hour for one fight.
Yes.
Who are you? Are you Dragon Ball? What's going on here? But I'm watching that one. And I don't know if this is sci-fi, but I've got a sneaky suspicion it is. It's a Korean anime from a manhwa, which is like the Korean version of a manga called Lookism. Lookism. It's about a guy who gets badly bullied. He's not a looker, and he's overweight, and he gets bullied, and he changes schools, and he wakes up in this like perfectly sculpted Adonis type body, and he's like, how the hell? Where did this come from? And he walks in the other room, and there's his normal body sleeping, and when he goes to sleep in one body, he wakes up in the other one. And it's sort of a study into how people treat the way people look. And in one body, he's bullied and beaten up, and downtrodden, and then the other one, it's a dichotomy. He's either really, really sucked up to because he's hot, or the toughs want to beat him down because they see him as a threat. But I don't know where the other body comes from. It kind of reminds me of a Terminator, actually, because he's fucking tough. So I'm looking forward to seeing later on to find out where the second body came from and what the whole deal is, because it does feel kind of sci-fi to me. But I'll have to wait and see on that one. I've been watching Geo and Angelus play Cyberpunk 2077, and I actually went out and bought it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yes.
You convinced
Finally.
me. Yes.
I want to watch you play it now, man.
Yeah, watch me fail miserably.
Imagine that this is like the gamer version of voyeur.
Yeah.
Voyeurism.
It's
I
interesting.
want to watch you play, boy.
I think I want to take up your playstyle rather than Angelus's. He's just sort of stand there and shoot, which is not very safe.
No. I laugh watching Angelus because he actually saves every time that he can. So whenever something doesn't go how he likes, he just go pop, 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 and reloads again. And I make fun of him every time that he does that. I try to be like as accountable as possible for my shitty decisions. So I had to live with them.
Wow, almost sounds like life.
Right, kind of.
Yeah. That's the idea. That's the idea of role playing, really. When you think it's me.
I have been watching the new Solo Leveling season, and it is freaking awesome. But I can't really call it sci-fi. I mean, it's just it doesn't have anything that I would call sci-fi in it. So it's sci-fi adjacent, maybe.
You can say, Ray, that it's stretching it less than Robert trying to say that there's nanobots in magic in Harry Potter, and it's a steampunk, so Harry Potter is sci-fi.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you watch it subbed?
Narnia.
Well, it is lit RPG because he does get to interact with the system.
MMO strats.
So it is lit RPG. So it's kind of computerized, but anyway.
Narnia is sci-fi because we covered it, and we are the deciding factor in that, right?
Say what, Anthony?
I said, I was like, oh, I'm in a simulation. I mean, like, dude, if I suddenly can see like this menu screen of the system interface, I would literally think I'm in a simulation. And then I would start thinking that people around me aren't real.
Yep. Honestly, they kind of mislead you. I finished just reading the manga for Solo Leveling. It's kind of misleading on the outro video because they show him sitting up in front of a screen, and it makes you think he's on a simulacrum of some sort. And the ending song video of the anime, but there's nothing to resemble that on the whole manga series. So it's very misleading to make you think that maybe it's a simulation, maybe it's not, and it's only showing that on the anime, on the outro song.
Maybe he's still in a hospital and he's in a coma.
True.
Oh yeah. You know, I always like trying to develop these alternate theories of them like being isekai and going somewhere. You know, like when Demon Lord Retry, like, you know, that dude, he's dying because just like how the towns are named, like Google and
yes,
Yahoo,
yeah,
Yahoo.
like
I love that one.
Demon Lord Retry is like, it doesn't really have a deep, very well weaved storyline, but it's so stupid funny that I enjoy watching it, bro.
Dude, and the rock music, like the metal music, and it slaps.
Yes.
I was a bit disappointed when the second season was handed over to what I considered was a subpar studio, but the story is still very good.
Oh, is it? Like, I started freaking out that because like there's some like I was like, oh boy, I see some new faces here. Like, looks like they redone some characters. I said, oh shit. Oh no.
But no, it actually has some animes. The story just sort of vagues out a bit, but that one's true to form all the way through, and I do love his character, sort of dark humor that he exudes.
And he's not like in the first season, and it's not like all about some like overreaching arc plot about him trying to defeat or like him trying to like become the most powerful or whatever. It's just him trying to make a business.
I think that's a funny thing. That's a funny thing with the guys with OP main characters is that they don't have a real directed interest at world domination.
Yeah,
And they accidentally achieve it anyways.
yeah.
I think that's the most hilarious thing. It makes kind of virtuous the main character of the series by doing that. Really,
Right. Well, I mean, you almost have to be.
Eminence in Shadow.
no, Eminence in Shadow is set apart because the main character make you so fully self-aware of he knowing that he's a main character and he knows he's being isekai over and over. So by taking that away from you trying to like, oh, this guy knows or not, it's like completely comedic. It's just hilarious all the way through. And then he is becoming a successful accident, really. Everybody's like, oh, he's so great. And he's like, how the fuck did I get here? And then he just plays along.
Let's we can talk for hours. I know Ray hasn't finished yet.
Yeah, my last one was those sci-fi YouTube stories. The channel that I've been listening to most recently is
hashtag HFY. You talking about those?
Yeah, HFY Sci-Fi Adventure. The only problem I have with them is that they make the titles very suggestive, but then the story has no sexual content whatsoever, and it's like, why did you bother? You're false advertising. You're going to put people off.
I mean,
I do enjoy the stories.
I've heard a couple of them where they're, they get a little bit
spicy.
Spicy, yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Spicy, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of them.
But you're right, though.
Titles are suggestive, and they just don't have anything like that in it. It's like, why did you bother?
Yeah, right.
But anyway, I listened to one about a guy who was sort of like an explorer. He was exploring new planets, checking them out, and he bumped into this girl from a hive mind species who happened to look like an anime girl. I don't know why, but she did. And then he basically was talking to her, and they decided that the hive mind decided that humans were bad, okay, and they'd have to do something about them. And he's like, no, we're not. We're cool. So he actually convinced her to break off from the hive mind and help him out. And it was an interesting story. I really liked it.
Nice. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next segment.
Yeah.
We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
And if you're new to the show, this is a segment that I highlight the hashtag. This is Sci-Fi. And This is Sci-Fi is our attempt to unite the sci-fi community under one banner. And for all of you who might not follow us since season 1, this was actually originated from our pursuit within season 1. I, as well as Dio, were part of the original season 1 crew, and we always found the silos on online. Like if you go to, back then was Twitter, now X, and any of the socials, you could actually find hashtags, and there's so many hashtags out there for the IP that you want to talk to about, the IP that you want to read about, the IP that you want to know what's going on, and how is it, what is the conversation today. But there wasn't really one that we could find that allowed me to go and read about all the sci-fi IPs, which is something wrong with it. But being the sci-fi fans that we are, that we love all kinds of sci-fi, which is still okay. I mean, if you just like Star Wars, it's fine. If you just like Star Trek, it's also fine. But I like to talk about all of the sci-fi, and maybe in doing so, discovering some new sci-fi that I have never been exposed to, and hence earning something new, learning to love something new. Um, and what I seen lately, it's something that amazes me. So, just to give an example, there has been a Star Trek fan that refuses to watch Star Wars, and vice versa. And I have seen conversations where, in the case of the person who loves Star Trek and refuses to watch Star Wars, uh, through the hashtag, listening to the passion of a Star Wars fan, and it was enough to spark some kind of curiosity. And now this person loves Star Wars as well. And this is what I find that very fascinating. And basically what I'm looking for it to happen personally to me, in a sense that I could get to discover new things. But I see cases like that happens all the time. And this is what I feel that the hashtag is so important if you are a sci-fi fan, because it crosses boundaries. It doesn't belong to just a single creator. It belongs to all sci-fi fans and also all sci-fi creators. So if you are a fan, what you do, you follow the hashtag, and whenever you post something that you are going to post anyways about that one passion you have, all you got to do is add the hashtag to the end. If you are a creator, all you got to do is, to the normal post that you were going to post anyways, just add the hashtag to it and follow it. And that way you can gain people that love the things that you love. You gain new friends, new conversations, and you also gain access to other stuff, which is basically what I am looking for. Other stuff that I have not seen, that I have not experienced before, from the point of view of someone that is very passionate about the thing. And if you're a creator, another way, to expose your material, to expose your baby, your creation, to a little bit more of an audience. And if you are not following us on YouTube, you might not understand the minor laughing behind the scenes and the derailment that happens in this show. We are
I'm actually laughing not because it's that great a joke, but because of the shitstorm that it would stir up.
Yes.
It's not so much that's funny. It's more like that's gonna say some shit.
It's chaos funny. It's chaos funny. So
It's how I make friends on the internet, guys.
I am
Hasn't
not
worked out for so
I'll say
far.
what you call them.
I am not going to mention what happened, because what you want to do is you want to wait a month after this is released on audio, go into our YouTube channel and then watch this, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. Now, if you're
and while you're there, like and subscribe, because we just need a few more subscribers and things get awesome for us. So
we are so close. We're so close to our milestone of 500, and we need your help. All you got to do is tell your friends, tell your family, hijack your parents' account. No, don't do that. I'm just kidding. Just tell
create
your
account for your dog. That's all.
And subscribe. Help us out. So yeah, that it. Just make sure you follow that hashtag and post on it, and let people know your passion for that one thing you love. And also we have another way that you could do that, right? Ray? I think we do.
I think
we have another way. You can also call 1-305-563-6334, and you can leave us your passion in a message. And what we're going to do with that is we are going to play it on our next episode, and we can talk about your passion, and we can have a mini conversation. So just remember, call 1-305-563-6334.
Hurry now, operators are standing by. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to do that. I was going to
Sorry, I
do
jumped the gun.
That's all good. It's all good.
It's totally awesome.
I'm going to come on every episode now just to do that.
Yeah.
Yes. Why not?
Pick up the phone and call, God, please.
We have actually had some calls that we've put on various episodes, and they were a lot of fun.
Oh,
Yes.
right on.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So before we move on, anything that anyone want to like?
Ooh,
would like to add
ooh,
to?
I got one.
Oh.
I got one. So my subject today is money. We all have to deal with money. But my question, and I'm going to ask the panel, and don't Google it, please. Just I want to see what your level of monification consciousness is. Okay.
Oh God.
So hands up so I can see them.
That's
so I know
measurable to consciousness now. Money, so materialistic.
He's holding us up, guys.
I'm asking for money, and I've got them to put their hands up. That looks so dodgy. So, how much do you think it would cost to bring back 30 titanium tubes with soil samples and rock samples in them from Mars? How much do you think that would cost?
Oh wow, I haven't even thought about that.
The GDP of Earth.
Just to throw a number, $120 trillion.
Trillion?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the price tag is honestly in the trillions.
Yeah, I want to say that.
Well, clearly
it's hard to imagine that amount of money. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like.
Well, actually, it's only a couple of F-16s. It's 11 billion.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Cheap at half the price. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And NASA's trying to get the price down. NASA's trying to get.
Thank you, Elon Musk.
So yeah, but yeah, it's only 11 billion. Now, I'm glad you brought up Elon.
That's accounting with Falcon X being able to reuse it, right? Because if we go back to economics, before you can have a reusable rocket of hydrogen, how much would it be? Probably going to be more expensive, right?
It's, the system has to be built, and then it has to be shipped to Mars, and then it has to operate correctly.
Right. You need like an automated plant, a manufacturing plant of some kind.
Basically, the sampler will sample, and then it'll put it into a capsule, which will launch off the probe, and that will then go into orbit, and it will probably dock with the satellite part of the probe, and then that will head back to Earth. So it'll be something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot easier than what I had envisioned. That's going to be great.
But you brought up Elon Musk. Now,
Papa Musk.
Just to put this in perspective, if you have saved $10,000 a day every day for the past 80,000 years, okay, wow. 80,000 years, a time when Neanderthals still walked the earth, right? 80,000 years ago. $10,000 a day, 80,000 years, you would still only have around half the wealth Elon Musk has today.
That is how Ray can put into perspective how my broke ass will never get up to the stars.
Oh, no, you'll make it up there when they need workers.
No. I'm going back to the Neanderthals now.
I mean, that is one hell of a long savings plan, and you'd only be halfway there to Elon's.
Hey, this romance gonna be simpler times. So back then, man, just a club in the head and go, baby. Let's go to the.
Yeah, club the head and drag her by her hair. Yeah.
Oh my god!
And they didn't even have divorce courts. So you were
okay, I'm gonna put. I had the perfect.
Me like you bouncy. Me like you bouncy.
I have the perfect symbol if you look at the top of right-hand corner of your screen.
Moving on, yes.
Moving on.
Awesome. Is there a little bit too much testosterone in these rooms?
I think so. Like, please help me. Not help us. Just help me.
So yeah, $11 billion, cheap at half the price. NASA's trying to get it down to $6 to $7 billion.
Nice. Okay.
numbers
Go
that
for it,
we
Robert.
could
Throw
never
me the
see in our bank
curveball.
account.
Oh man,
Throw me the curveball, bro.
Really?
Really?
Really? I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
Shout out.
And for today's shout outs, we're gonna give a special welcome to Sam Kaisel. Welcome to YouTube, man. We're glad that you subscribe, and we hope that you like what we do here. I hope to see your comments around, man. We'll engage on it, and I'll try to be as non-toxic as possible. It's really Robert's part to do that, but I can play that role. Also, I wanted to do a special shout out to Nextonstageone. She's awesome. It's an adult podcast, but they're amazing. If you like strippers and want to hear them talk about their daily lives, go and check them out. She's fantastic, and she's a cutie. And
Whoa. But nothing.
she's cool. She's pretty cool. She's pretty cool, man. Listening to her is amazing, and I mean, what I really like about her is she engaged with everybody. We have collaborated in our first season, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had collaborations with her. She's fantastic. And last but not least, a very old friend of ours that's still alive and booming on X, Stu World Order. Awesome dude. He writes science fiction, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, Elon Musk, even though I call it X, still Twitter in my heart. And that will be all for today's shoutouts.
Awesome. I hold on a second. What? Okay, I got it.
Everybody's got to have a go.
It's like a chorus, man.
It sure is. So you guys know that the Alita story is set in a post-apocalyptic world, some number of hundreds of years in the future, depending on which version you're looking at.
And she's a hot cyber granny.
That's right. Which is a hot cyber terrorist. But anyway, I thought I would show you this little meme that just popped up. Post-apocalyptic TV show was filming due to sudden outbreak of apocalypse.
Ironic, bro.
Fallout Season 2 filming halted due to LA fires.
Oh yeah, show about the apocalypse halts due to the apocalypse.
That's right. Wonder if they'll ever get going again.
Yep.
That is ironic. I just thought you'd find that amusing. So this week's Alita Army News involves episode 248. We're nearly up to the quarter thousand. So the show's been going for a while. And the topic for the most recent show was Zapan and Sarah, pure love or Romeo and Juliet moment. So Zapan is a well-known antagonist to Alita in the early part of the original manga. And he's basically saved by Sarah, who is actually the daughter of what's his name? It's McTeague in the movie, but he's got a different name. No. McTeague is the dog master. He's got a different name in the manga, but Sarah's his daughter. And anyway, she helps the master. Out. Yes, the kennel master. Sarah finds Zapan after his face has been cut off by Alita, and she nurses him back to health, and she falls in love with him, and she's basically sets up house with him, and Zapan does his best, but he's got anger management issues and
mommy issues.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well in the end. But we were discussing about their relationship and whether it was a pure love moment or a Romeo and Juliet moment, like star-crossed lovers doomed to die kind of deal.
Like so, Alita and Hugo, right?
Well, Alita didn't die.
No, Alita Hugo was more Alita having to learn the hard way not to be a dumb little playa.
Hugo did. Come on.
Hugo had a very, very nice and poetic death. Should have been more trashier and painful than traumatic.
I'm sure it was painful, but not for very long.
It wasn't painful because his head wasn't plugged into an unreal body. There was no real pain receptors anymore. He should have just died as a head rolling on a pyramid of the Aztecs or something like Apocalypto. That would have been nice. Like with the first person view rolling down the stairs, that would be nice for him.
You can tell Dio loves Hugo here. So
Oh yeah, I'm a die-hard fan for his ways of dying. He was a piece of
harsh. Anyway, it was an interesting discussion because we had a French Alita Army veteran, Matau, who is a big Zapan and Sarah shipper. So she had a lot to say about that episode. So that's episode 248, which is available on the Radio Chaos live stream section in the Alita Army YouTube channel. So just search hashtag Alita Army, one word, and you'll find the channel. And if you find the Alita story interesting and the content on that channel good, please do like and subscribe, because subscribers are good things when you're running YouTube channels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now here we are.
And
the moment of the truth.
I feel like I have seen this so many times and I am not ready. As a matter of fact, if you guys are not in our Discord, you missed not only a great watch party, we normally do a watch party, but a great conversation, because things got heated.
Yeah. And you know what's the solution to the movie? The solution to the movie is this, buddy.
Right.
Okay, so before we dig in,
some big ass bugs, man.
I'm telling you.
It was more like what's this movie where we're holding on the movie so we can bring the actor, Davin. It's based by
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers, man. It was more like Starship Troopers if they would have gone down the battleground.
That's the only thing they're missing. No, that's what they were smarter. You were like, no, we're not going down there.
Let me give you the perfect context. Starship Troopers was the first-person shooter, and this is the RTS.
The RTS, yeah. This is a StarCraft version.
Yeah. Which is smarter too, right? Well, you still lose the same amount of people, but it's just the way that they died. So
it's sad we didn't get a Kerrigan here, like in StarCraft. I would have loved to see what Kerrigan would look like.
Well, when they invaded Clendathia, there was like 100,000 deaths at the very minimum, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
maybe that's what's gonna come in part 2. Robert, stay tuned. We're gonna see an infected human looking like an ant.
So we're obviously talking about Ender's Game, right?
Oh, Ender's Game.
Sure.
Was that the movie we were supposed to watch?
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you did watch it because I was there.
Robert got a little heart attack because I woke up kind of groggy today, and I was like, "Is it a 3-body problem?" He just called me right away, like, "Hey, you're gonna scare me, right?" And I know, dude, I just woke up.
It wasn't a 3-body problem, right? And I'm like, dude, please don't do this to me. Oh my God! So before we jump into this,
do we have a plot?
We apparently have a plot to say.
We do have a plot, but just before we hit the plot, I just want to bring one thing up. Now, if you Google Ender's Game movie like I did, you may get where did the question? Oh, it's changed. That's weird. Because there was actually a different question on there, and I said, "Oh, that's an interesting one." There it is. It's reappeared. Why didn't people like Ender's Game? When Google gives you a bunch of questions with drop downs that you can expand and find out stuff. So people ask, why didn't people like Ender's Game? And the answer that Google gives is, this is due to the plot containing things like exploiting children, condoned child violence, militarism and indoctrination, speculative discrimination, apparent genocide, and other sometimes delicate themes.
Apparent?
Oh my God.
Apparent.
Do you wanna see what's the deceiving part about making a question that is driven by a need to get an answer? If I put why people liked Ender's Game, it says people liked Ender's Game because it's a compelling story about a young, gifted child navigating complex moral dilemmas within high-stake military environment, exploring themes of manipulation, responsibility, and nature of war. So, I mean, depending on how you ask the question, you're gonna get an answer that supports what you're asking. There are people that like it then.
Now, I have to
Like
add,
me.
I had to add what Ray just found out, what he just read, kind of answers a question for me, because since the very first time that I watched this movie, I totally love it. Um, and just to put it in perspectives, right? The budget for this film was $110 million. This movie, domestically, made only 61.7, and internationally it made 63.8, so total of 127.9. So it was
Barely broke even.
it's
Well,
actually
no, you've got to add 50% for the
For Harrison
distribution
Ford's
and
fees.
advertising.
exactly. Now there's a quote here that I found. It says this movie was a box office failure and was listed in Variety's biggest box office bombs of 2013. I remember seeing that, and I could not understand why. Now, what Ray mentioned makes sense. That might be part of the reason. But this film was, and it still is. And you know how you watch a film and maybe you forget about it, then you watch it the next year. This is kind of like what my relationship with this movie is. I've seen it many times throughout the years. And every time I watch it, I forget how much fun this movie was. So to go back to you, Ray, you have the plot. So I guess we should get into that before we
Yes,
continue.
before the discussion goes off galloping away. Okay, in the future, humanity is preparing to launch an attack on the homeworld of an alien race called the Formics that has attacked Earth and killed millions. The Formics invasion was stopped by Mesa Rackham, who crashed his spaceship. It was a F-16 into the Formic Queen ship at the apparent cost of his life. Over the course of 50 years, gifted children are trained by the International Fleet to become commanders of the new fleet for a counterattack. Cadet Andrew Ender Wiggin draws the attention of Colonel Hiram Graff, who Robert hates with a passion, apparently.
Yes.
And Major Gwen Anderson, because of the aptitude in simulated space combat, so he's recruited into battle school. In the school, he is placed with the other cadets his age, but Graff treats him as extraordinary, thereby subjecting him to ostracism. The cadets are placed in squads and perform training games in the zero-gravity battle room. This is in orbit. Ender quickly adapts to the games, devising new strategies older students had not yet contemplated. Graff reassigns Ender to the Salamander Army, led by Commander Bonzo Madrid. Bonzo treats Ender as inept and a liability, preventing him from training with the rest of the squad. Cadet Petra Arkanian takes him under her wing and trains him privately, and a mutual attraction seems to develop. In the next match, Bonzo benches Ender while the rest of the Salamander Army fights another team. However, seeing the team losing and Petra in trouble, Ender comes to her aid and helps the Salamanders Army win. Ender plays a computerized mind game set in a fantasy world which presents difficult choices to the player. In one simulation, Ender creates an outside-of-the-box solution to overcome a seemingly unsolvable problem. Later, he encounters a Formic in the game and then simulated images involving his siblings. Anderson note these unusual additions to the game are seemingly altered by Ender's interacting with it. Graff promotes Ender to lead his own squad, which is made up of misfit students. They are put in increasingly difficult battles. In a surprise match between two other teams, including Bonzo's Salamander army, Ender devises a novel strategy by sacrificing part of his team to achieve the goal, impressing Graf. And it was actually 2-on-1. So it was two other army squads versus the Dragons, which was Ender's squad. After the match, Bondo attacks Ender, but he fights back. During the struggle, Bonzo falls and suffers a serious head injury. Bonzo is then briefly seen in the infirmary receiving emergency surgery, leaving his ultimate fate ambiguous. Distraught, Ender quits battle school, but Graf has his sister, Valentine, convince him to continue. The group's training is rigorous, and Anderson expresses concern over this, but Graf notes that they have run out of time. Graf takes Ender to humanity's forward base on the former Formic planet, near their homeworld to meet with Rackham, who explains that the Formics share a hive mind mentality and how exploited that to win the battle. Ender finds that his former squad members are also there to help him train in computerized simulations of large fleet combat, the FDS component. Rackham then puts special emphasis on the fleet's molecular detachment device that is capable of disintegrating matter. Ender's final test is monitored by several fleet commanders. As the simulation starts, Ender finds his fleet over the Formic homeworld vastly outnumbered. He orders most of the fleet to sacrifice themselves to protect the MD long enough for it to fire on the homeworld. The resulting chain reaction burns the entire planet. Yes, it was Exterminatus, if you know the 40K reference.
I'm surprised that there was a planet anywhere after disintegrating molecular matter, right?
Wow.
There should be a planet.
The simulation ends and Ender believes the test is over. The commanders restart the video screen showing that Ender's fleet was in a live mission destroying the Formic homeworld. Despite Graf congratulating him, Ender realizes that he's committed genocide of a race that had never re-attacked Earth. While asleep, Ender is awoken by a Formic queen and is directed to the Formic structure nearby as being similar to the ruined castle in the game. She acknowledges Ender's role in the genocide and moves to kill him, but when he shows remorse, she spares his life. The dying queen gives Ender a queen egg that she has been protecting. With the war ended, Ender is promoted to admiral, given a small ship, and left to his own devices. In a letter to Valentine, he confides that he's going to go into deep space, determined to find a suitable planet to start a new Formic colony with the queen egg. Roll credits.
Going into deep space to get out of deep shit.
He's gonna do his own therapy.
I feel I gotta quote Harrison Ford, and this is something that I actually found while I was researching for this film. Harrison Ford has been known to describe Colonel Graf as a mentor and a manipulator.
Oh yeah.
I know that this is proof that Harrison Ford is an amazing actor. When you're able to create, at least in my view, in my perspective, such a hated character. But apparently, I might be the only one in this group that feels that way.
General Graf did nothing wrong.
Well, maybe because I am an overthinker, and you know that I have good legs, so I'm always jumping the gun. I could foresee, and you can ask Ray how many times I try to get ahead of the story that he's writing, and I'm trying to like read on the background and kind of like give him feedback. You can ask Ray how far I try to jump the gun all the time and stay ahead of the plot. So it is. If you should know by now, like I saw it coming. It didn't really shock me. It was an expected logical outcome to me, taking into account human nature and the historical data that precedes it.
Now, I gotta mention something. It's a good thing you mentioned that, because me and Ray had a conversation about this, and I'm kind of wondering about everybody else here. I actually read the book first and then watched the movie. And I remember from the conversation that me and Ray had, I remember mentioning that I did not see the ending coming on the book. And it was such a shock to me. And then I mentioned to Ray that I don't remember that shock being present when I watched the film. And I didn't know if it was because obviously I read the book, I know that was coming, or if it was because it wasn't done just right for the film. I don't know if you remember that conversation, Ray, that we were having. You have not watched it, you have not read the book.
No.
So, with first time that you watch this, and I guess this is going back to which we'll do in just a second here, but I'm just kind of curious about this. Um, was that the case for someone that has never read the book to watch the film? Was that a thing, or does that belongs to the book area?
I was suspicious when he said photorealistic combat simulation. I'm like, really? Why? Why is it photorealistic? What possible value could that have? Why would you need it? It's a simulation. We know it. They've been told it's a simulation. Why does it need to be photoreal? And then I thought to myself, hang on a second. Wait a minute. Maybe this is live and they're just not telling them. But that was in the back of my head. I wasn't sure. And then I was like, yes, I was right when it came up. So I wasn't horribly shocked. But then I'm also in the overthinking community. So I'm always looking for the twist.
You want me to point out where I noticed it and how I pointed out? Sure. The choices that he was making on the war practice when they were on like zero gravity space, he was sacrificing every single team member just to get the goal done. And what did I say, Robert? He has no commitment to this. He's looking at it as a game, not as warfare. So the moment the truth or the moment of the truth comes in, they're preparing somebody that is not really prepared to take over the role he's being trained for. You know? So it is the logical thing to fool him all the way through because he's making the right choices, but without the commitment.
Yeah.
So long as he doesn't see the real cost and the real consequence of his actions and choices, he's willing to make the sacrifices that are gonna get the right outcome. Which Robert's favorite character is all he cared for. It was the outcome, the results. Doesn't matter if it was at the cost of the child's mind being evaporated on the process.
In the same line as the question, I mean the answer that Ray gave, I think that I started suspecting what was going on in the book, obviously, because that was my first impression. When they were when he went to the command school for the first time, and they started doing. Obviously, in the book has a lot more details. You hear what people thinks before they speak and all this stuff. But that's when I started thinking something was not right. Something was going on. So, Anthony, I don't know how long ago you watched this film, but did you see the ending coming the very first time you watched this film?
I didn't. I was surprised for sure.
Awesome. Apparently we lost Geo. He's having some technical difficulties, but
Well, you know Geodude doing Geodude things.
He'll be right back. Okay, so I guess before we move on too far off, and before we forget this question, because that's what we do, we forget this question. The very first question that we ask in the show is, and we kind of alluded to this with our conversation here, is how old were you when you watched this film for the first time? And what was your very first impression? And this is excluding your rewatch and anything they have done after the fact. Just your very first impression. Apparently we're going to leave Gio for last for two reasons. One, he's not here. Two, he watched it today for the first time. So who wants to go? I can go first, or you guys can. Not sure who has watched it the most.
Did you see the cinemas, Robert?
Unfortunately, not. And this is another regret that I have. Not because I didn't know, it's because I couldn't at the time. But
Well, I had a newborn son at the time, so there was no way I was getting away to the cinema, so I didn't see it at the cinema either.
Yeah, I did see it as soon as I could on at home, but I didn't see it at the theaters. And I figure it wasn't too big. Well, that's my mentality back then, right? It wasn't too big of a deal because I read the book. Boy, was I wrong. The imagery alone is an experience that I don't think I'll get back. Since unless maybe if I set up my projector at home, maybe. So you want me to go first, or you guys want to go?
Might as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I read this book, and I remember that I actually bought the second book, just because I loved the story. The story was amazing. The book really took me. If you guys remember the film that we covered early, all we got to do is go back to our back catalog. It's called Archive. It was a little similar to me. The experience on that film and how was the experience reading this book. It's one of those books that I could not put down. Obviously, at the time, I had a lot more time to read books. Now it seems like I'm grasping for time, but it was such an experience. I really loved the concept, and we'll probably get into very good into the details in this thing because apparently, if you missed out our Discord, you missed out on a heated discussion. But the ending, I remember that being a tremendous surprise to me. I did not see anything coming. It almost felt as if, I was reading a book about something that actually turned into something completely different. And that's what I remember reading about the book. It was very shocking. It left me, I guess the best description that I have, the ending on the book, it left me grasping for air of shock. Now fast forward, when they announced the movie, I remember I was so freaking excited because if you're a reader like me, you probably go through the same things. You enjoy story and it's fantastic, and you make these visuals in your head based on what you read. And then the announcement is made that there's a movie, and you're going to get to see with your own eyes the thing that you envision in your head from the pages on that book. That's also a little scary because part of the reason why a book is so much better for storytelling is because it leaves half of the story to the imagination of the reader. So, for example, I can envision a character being blonde, and someone can envision the character being a brunette.
But
And it's
I
what
think it's a reason. It's a reason why Ray loves so much 2049 too.
God. Um, and that's why books are great, and the reason I think in part why they fail when they convert it, because you have a diehard fan following this story on book, and they have a set expected vision that was obviously projected by the author, and now you have a director and a producer and a company creating this, and they're making their own uh, judgment on what things look like and how things should go. That might not be necessarily the same that was either directed by the writer within the book, or there was an imagination of the mass populace of people who actually read the book. And that's, I feel, is part of the reason why conversions into, from books into movie sometimes fail. I honestly, I was afraid in part and excited at the same time. But when I watched this film, granted, it did not cover everything that was in the book, which is normal. The book is a lot longer. You only have what was this movie? An hour and a half, or was it 2 hours? I forgot the length. But the point is, it's not long enough to cover everything in the book, so it's natural that things are going to get cut.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised because although there was a lot of things cut, this movie came very close, if not the same, as the experience that I had reading the book. And that has a lot to say about the people that actually worked on it. And it shows dedication from the production and the people that worked in production of this film to make sure that they are true to the story. They made some liberties, like for example, in the book, the kids were 6 years old. I don't think that would fly well in a film. So I understand that, and it wasn't really necessary for the story. If you, at least I don't think so. I'll leave it to you guys to see if you guys think differently. But it didn't really matter that the kids, if there were 6 or there were 11, for the actual story plot. So I think that was a good decision and a change that needed to happen. But yes, my to round up my long discussion on this first thought is that I really enjoy what they did with the film, and it's always fun to watch, and I am glad that they did not mess it up in transporting it from a book. And that is my last impression. Who wants to go next?
Wasn't that your first impression?
My first impression.
You're confusing me, dude.
He said last, right?
No,
You did.
yeah, last first.
You meant first.
Last first impression. Okay, that's a new dictionary word. Last first impression.
No, let me
You're splitting hairs.
Let me clarify. That was my first impression.
Okay.
So
It's like, baby, hadn't we done it? Yeah, that was my last kiss, baby.
I'll go first. First. I'll go next. God, now you're confusing me. Stop it, Robert.
Go first next. Goes first next, man.
First next.
Yeah, I'll go first next. I'm sure that'll become a word in the future. Just like scientific-y.
Yeah, we can make a shirt, man. We have a scientific shirt, so might as well.
That's right. So I was in the middle of looking after a newborn when this movie came out, so I did not get to the cinema that year at all. But I saw it. It might have been streaming. It might have been DVD release. I can't remember now. 2013. I don't think I was using Blu-rays yet. So I probably saw this on DVD. I think probably rented it. And I remember watching it and thinking, wow, this has got some really nice CGI. Like the launch of the orbital shuttle and a lot of the shots of the space stations, and then the carriers and the drone swarms and all the swarms of the Formics. It really is a feast for the eyes, this one. And I did lament the fact that I didn't get to see it in the big screen because it would have been very pretty.
Yes.
My first impression of the movie as a whole was a little bit it was a little bit all over the place because I was having a few issues with the whole they're training children to fight in wars, like child soldiers and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, it's a little bit icky. And the bullying and everything, which I hate. So I didn't think much of that. But I could see where it was coming from, and I could see what they were trying to do. They were trying to create the perfect commander who only thought about winning. Everything else didn't matter as long as they won. And Ender had the intelligence to put that to work, but basically they had to beat his humanity out of him to make it happen. And in the end, they couldn't manage it. He left, and then he came back because they begged him to. And there was a scene that was very telling, which I only realized on my most recent watch. there's a scene where they say 28 days, and there's this picture of a fleet moving towards a planet. And the fleet's on the left and the planet's on the right, which gives you the false impression it's an incoming fleet, because something coming from outside is usually on the left and home is on the right? So you're thinking, oh, the Formics have got their fleet together and they're proceeding towards it, but nothing like that happens. The Formics fleet's around their planet. And I didn't actually realize this time around that was actually the human fleet getting to the Formic world, and they needed a commander to then command it to destroy the bastards, because they needed to purge the Xenos, basically. And I didn't pick up on that the first time around. It was really interesting. But when I first watched this movie, I was trying to piece it all together. There was a lot of little hints and little things that you wouldn't necessarily pick up. Even on my most recent watch just before with the guys, there was things that I was discovering about this movie. So there's a lot of depth to it, even after it's been simplified for the screen from the book. So I imagine, Robert obviously knows, but the book is probably even more complicated with the interactions between the characters and what goes on.
And
of
that's
course,
what I was asking. That's exactly what I was asking. And if you guys out there are listening to the show and you have actually read the book and viewed the movie, let me know, because I'm actually really curious. From the same reasons that Ray just mentioned, this book not only was a lot deeper, but it was a lot more shocking, the ending. So I'm really, really curious about that.
Yeah, well, the story goes on in novel format past the end of the movie. So the movie kind of wraps it up in a way that if they don't get to make a second one, it doesn't feel like it was left on a cliffhanger, because most people hate that. Yes, I'm talking to you, Disney, about Alita Battle Angel bastards. But I've always got to throw that in there. The movie feels finished. The story kind of feels finished, but there is actually a lot more that goes on with Ender's family after that. I've just been reading a little bit about it on the internet while Robert was talking. And it really is quite a deep story. And I'm actually kind of interested to read the novels now to get more into the depth of this story. But like I said, the movie still has a lot of depth in it. There's little hints about all sorts of things that I picked up on second, third, and now most recent watchings. But my first feeling for this movie was it felt a little bit all over the place, because it does have so much information that you don't necessarily pick it all up on the first time around. So if you've watched Ender's Game and it didn't quite work for you, give it another shot and look for the little details. You'll find all sorts of little Easter eggs and all sorts of little tells. And Ender, as a character, is acted very well and is a very complicated person. He stands around a lot looking bemused or confused, but he's not at all. He is processing the whole time. And you can tell by the fact that he's, standing there looking at somebody and they're like, what do you want? And he goes, come and talk to me privately outside, and just walks out. And you're like, well, fuck, he said that to his commander. And he's walked off from the guy who wants to beat his head in. Ender is so freaking complicated and working on such a high level compared to anybody else in the movie. I mean, he's only a bit naive. That's his only flaw, that he's naive because he's inexperienced.
One line from the movie that summarizes what you just mentioned, Ray, is within the conversation he had with Graf, when he said, like, you have a history of, what was it, pissing off your commanders?
Mm-hmm.
And what was his response? His response was,
I don't like taking orders from people I can't respect.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't respect people that just simply because they have a higher rank than I do.
Oh, yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, yeah.
And that summarizes him so well.
Totally. But there's a lot of other stories where it's the genius's journey, and this very much is a genius's journey movie. And some people who aren't deep thinkers might have a lot of trouble picking up on all the little tells and all the little deep moments in this movie. I think you can still enjoy it without thinking too hard about it, but the real, well, for me personally, the real enjoyment is picking up on all the little details and going, like the thing I mentioned about the fleet. I didn't pick it up until this very last watch. So, I mean, it's all these things. And that to me tells me that it's, got a rewatchability and that it was a well-made movie despite its less than stellar acceptance by the viewing public.
Yeah.
And that's my first impression.
Okay, so not sure if Anthony wanna go next or
Yeah, I can go, but man, you guys, boy, what a tough act to follow. Jeez. Oh, man.
Come on, man, you're a voice actor.
What? So
no,
Just imagine you're me and say something.
it's the question is just what was how old were you when you watched this, and what was your very very first impression of watching the film?
I was probably like in my late 20s, I think. Maybe I can't. Was it this 2012, right? What
2013.
2013. So that's like what 11 years ago.
Try 12.
Yeah, so I was like in my I was like in my late 20s when this came out, and it was just another sci-fi movie because it's like, all right, something. I was like, oh, it's got Harrison Ford in it. I had heard of the book, but I had no idea what it was about.
Same. That was my knowledge about it before watching it.
Yeah, and so I put, I started watching it, and like the visuals, I was really blown away by the visuals. It's like, okay, I mean, like they got Harrison Ford, so they got some money into this, and I didn't have a problem with like the kids like being, in the military. It's not like these were child soldiers in the Congo or whatever. These were kids like at a military school, like a cadet training school. So I didn't really have a problem with that. It was like sci-fi Harry Potter to me with Ender as Harry Potter, the Chosen One.
Yeah, that is a very good valid point. It makes sense. If I Harry Potter.
Yep. There was some.
You're a tactician, Harry.
You're a tactician, Harry.
Who can say it in a Maori accent? That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah. And so like,
yeah, a tactician.
I guess he Avada Kedavra that planet, didn't he? Oh,
yeah. Oh yes.
Oh,
down with the Voldemorians.
Yeah.
He Avada Kedavra the whole planet.
Yeah,
an entire race. Talk about Voldemort. I think he beat Voldemort there.
Unforgivable comment.
There was like something, like some of the characters I didn't like. I mean, like not like because like, oh, I'm like you're not like because you're meant to dislike him. Like his sister, I was all like, it's like, who is she? Like, what is she talking about? Like she was just like a little bit more naive. It felt like than him. I don't know. In some ways,
she was a little bit convenient.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that honestly, in my opinion, she was a bland written character with no depth to it.
Yeah,
that's my honest critic to it.
I mean, it's okay. Like like it's not like, I mean, she had all of like 6 minutes screen time, something like that. I don't know. And then like, man, like his whole family, like it felt like the whole family was cardboard.
Yes. You
like they're just props in the background, like
Agreed. I felt the same way.
And other than like maybe a sister, but then it didn't feel like I didn't feel like the relationship was real or whatever.
It kind of makes sense because in the
I
book,
agree.
the center stage, obviously the movie is about Ender. The center stage is Ender, even in the book. You have a little bit more information about the family, about the sister, that might make you think slightly different. But my perception of what I read in the book was all about Ender. So everything else was just a background noise.
Yeah, and then like
It was
I
a
mean,
story given by narcissistic psychopaths.
I thought the this the his nanny, the black dude in at the base. I call him his nanny, but he's like his sergeant or something like that.
That's a great way to call
Great
it.
actor. Such a great actor. I love that guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like, why is this dude here? Like, why is he here?
He's nanny, bro.
Um,
He's nanny.
Awesome.
and then like I said, like the whole like final battle, that was great. The only thing that was kind of like, what is it? They take a giant flashlight through space and basically shine a flashlight on these aliens and kill them. I mean, the whole like the ship that like destroys, it's just a battery with a laser beam. You know what I mean? Like
That's
like
a
the whole
giant
ship.
double railgun,
Yeah,
bro.
it's a giant battery. So they just come over there and just, hey, aliens, let me shine my light on you guys, and then I'll scatter like roaches.
To me, it was a giant double railgun.
Other than that, I mean, like, I just had some little minor stuff here and there, but like, other than that, it's a totally enjoyable movie. It does kind of make you think on a little bit level. Like, I think I'd agree with Ray there that you can't. I don't think you can just shut off your brain. Like, I mean, you can enjoy and shut off your brain, right? And but
Hell yeah.
I think you get more enjoy of it. Like if it's one of those movies that makes you think a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But that's my views.
Awesome. So Captain Chaos today was. Correct me if I am wrong. Was today the first time you watch? Okay. So, what is your first impression and your only impression of the film?
My final impression for the very first time today. The movie didn't surprise me. It was entertaining. It kept my attention the whole time. It was not difficult to get ahead of the plot on this one. I kind of expected it because it just depicted what historical data has shown that humans are prone to do when facing a threat or facing extermination, which is overpower, and not really take a risk. That's when it comes to warfare, we are not willing to take risk because risk might mean our extermination or the end of our races, right? So that was kind of normal in there. I did like how I kind of foresaw where things were going. I felt, uh, sorry, I felt like it makes sense that they kind of tricked Ender throughout the whole plot because he was very playful and willing to make choices that, when put in real warfare, meant sacrificing your comrades like pawns on a chessboard and not really put the weight of his decisions on a real scale. So from a military managerial standpoint, the right choice is to just trick the boy to do its bidding and not really feel the weight of his choices, but get you the results that need to be done. You know,
Just had to put the wool over his eyes a little bit.
Yes, and I think that's a perfect balance with high functioning thinking kid, making it still a kid, because if it was really a mad genius, he would have caught on to this is not a game, that's what I would think a genius would be like. You cannot really fool a genius or manipulate it easy, because manipulation is a very easy terrain when you comprehend the way it works, and I don't think the kids really did comprehend that. The only thing that really did bother me of the movie was the flakiness of Miss Mother Teresa of Calcutta sister character. I don't care. I don't care about softness on the character. I care about flakiness, and she was a flaky bitch. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
She was like, "Oh no, I don't care about the war ending. My brother's well-being matters most." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, you go, boy. We need you." And it's like, what the fuck? Did they just did some kind of hocus pocus on your brain and mind control and got you to do whatever Indiana Jones from the space wanted you to do and say? You know, like that was kind. Yeah, no, it was horribly disappointed. Like it's not that I didn't want Anders to do his role. It was kind of fine to see him actually just choke on his own actions. Uh, but it kind of bothered me that flakiness. Like it was like such a foul ball, like out of the blues. Like at the end of the day, he just got her on a car and convinced her. I do agree with everything Anthony said. His family felt completely like cardboard, empty.
Yeah.
But other than that, the movie was good.
Yeah. I wanted to mention a couple of things and wonder if you guys noticed. And that also leads to another question that I have that I don't know if I'll ever have the answer to unless we ever get to talk to the people involved in creating this film. But I don't know if you notice the first space battle scene that we see, the very first few minutes of this film, it was a tribute to the asteroid scene in the Empire Strikes Back. And I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I saw the parallels.
And not only that, but something that I find very, very interesting is that the swarm, the alien ships, if you catch them at an angle individually, like if you grab one and look at it at an angle, they resemble the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, kind of in a way, yeah.
The drones did, right?
No, the Formic.
The enemy swarm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the enemy swarm.
The Formic drone ships in cross section had a similar cross section to the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
with the sort of smaller bit at the front and it gets thicker at the back, and then has a sort of an engine wrapping around the back side of it.
So I wonder, and the question that I alluded to was, I wonder if this was intentional because Harrison Ford was working on this film. But I find that interesting, and didn't know if you noticed, and what was your thought on that?
I did notice.
Nice.
I have quite the visual memory, and I have seen Empire Strikes Back many times. So
I'm sure that's probably something they were going for intentionally, something familiar. They want the audience to see something familiar. Maybe. It's like, hey, we got this movie about child soldiers. We better throw them a freaking bone here.
We better not bring an Anakin Skywalker, though. That would be disastrous.
Yeah. Another thing that I found very, very interesting, and I can see how this is possible. And it's a shame you guys have not read the book. But I make the question and invite all our listeners who actually read the book and reach out to us on Discord and let me know what your thoughts are. But I think I'm going to read it verbatim. I made some notes as I was watching the film, and when I was doing my research on this film, this is something that I did not quite know, but the U.S. Marine Corps has Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card on its recommended reading list for officers, saying that it offers lessons in training methodology, leadership, and ethics as well. and it doesn't surprise me. So because of the way, I almost want to add to that military tactics. Did you guys knew about that? I mean, it's actually a surprise to me.
What's that? Which part?
That the book is actually recommended reading for officers in the U.S. Marine Corps.
Huh.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I would think that more than that book, The Art of War is more useful.
Yeah, but they do have this book as recommended reading. So I was really shocked. I did not know. I mean, I can see how, because I actually read the book and I see how that could be used for that, but it still surprised me. So, okay, so I want to make a comment, and I guess this is what led to our heated discussion on our Discord. I like to summarize this movie, actually the story, if I count the book, as a lesson in miscommunication. How do you guys feel about that?
It's pretty accurate. Pretty accurate. I mean,
I
the way
agree to
that
disagree.
Of course you will, Gia. That's what you do.
I do not confuse miscommunication for retaliation. Humans here just retaliated. And I don't think that this is gonna get to a matter of semantics here. Humans retaliated. You attack me? Hey, I ain't gonna go and talk to you anymore. You just threatened my whole existence.
Well, Robert's working from the position of having more information than the moviegoers had about what was going on with the Formics, what their thinking was, because you don't get that in the movie. And it made a whole lot more sense to me when you explained that from the book, Robert, about the Formics not thinking that humans were intelligent because they couldn't communicate telepathically. And they were just wiping them out because they thought they were just a plague on the earth, which we kind of are. But
now,
I wish they would have asked
you, Robert. In the book, they did not attack first. They sent an envoy or something, or it took them to get exterminated by us by acknowledge us as an equal or superior force. Because that's the thing. If it takes you to lose a whole battalion to get to that conclusion, I'm sorry, you're too late. It's like you put your hand in the black hole, and only when you have your arm and you're gonna stuck it out if you think that you want to pull it out, you fuck, buddy.
So here's where my thought is, and I'll let you guys decide on this and how you feel. Number one, I wish that they would include it a little bit more. They did try to include in the film, like one of the things that I remember they included in the film that leads to that information that I feel was not complete is the fact that they attacked, they retreated, and they never came back in 15 years. So that's one clue, but like what Gio mentioned, that is not enough.
That's left to a speculation and assumption that it will not happen again. There's no white flag on that.
So,
and that,
that wasn't a good enough. I think they needed to include a little bit more. But my concern is, they have a limited time to tell the story, and I think that this is part of the information they got cut off for an actual reason. Now, here's the thing, and this is what I know. What happened was the Fermi were looking for planets to colonize because, as you know, this is kind of like future of our very own Earth. There's going to come a time when humanity will outgrow the planet, And what I mean by that is we're going to have way too many people to be supported by our planet. So
It's called carrying capacity.
exactly. So we're going to, what was the term that was used in the movie for the Fermi is we're going to breed ourselves into extinction.
They exceeded the carrying capacity of their planet.
Exactly. But what they were trying to do is what we are trying to do currently. This is what we're trying to do today. So if you think about it from the point of view of NASA, for example, we go to a planet. We don't see anything that we consider life or alive because we talked about this in our previous episodes, is our vision of what is considered to be a sentient being. It is tainted by our human understanding. How we would know that if we go and colonize a planet, that planet doesn't already have sentient beings if you don't consider them sentient beings based on our understanding of what a sentient being should be. And this is the topic that the book talks about. The Fermi goes out there. They have a problem. They're growing too large for the planet they have. They got to colonize other planets. And they find this blue marble, amazing little planets. They see humans, but they don't see humans. Their understandings or humans is not the understanding they believe a sentient being should be, because for them, a sentient being is able to communicate telepathically. So the fact that they can't talk to humans, oh, they're not sentient beings. And that, when I read that, I was like, wow, that's us. You know, we go out there. How do we know that we haven't already discovered a sentient being and we killed it because we didn't know? And that's exactly what happened. Now, the queen, after that attack, the queen realized that she made a mistake, because in their society, they're kind of like ants, right? The queen, there's multiple queens on the planet, and every queen has a group of, let's call it worker ants, since we're using the ant analogy here.
Insects.
And when they found out that humans were sentient, it was a shock to them. And it was something grave. They believed that they really screwed up, because a queen in their planet, it's something big, right?
Amazing.
It's something amazing. And they discover a planet that doesn't have worker ants. Every single person is a queen. And they found that to be amazing. So their NASA made a mistake.
Every single person is a queen. You worth it, girls. Go get him.
So they,
Yeah.
so they
Thank you for not letting me down, Gio.
Hell no.
It was a severe failure of reconnaissance.
Exactly. So they left, right? And they decided, you know what? We believe these people deserve to live. They are amazing of a species. Too bad we can't communicate. But what happens, and why I said this is a lesson in miscommunication, humans, being humans, understood it as obviously an act of war. In a war that they actually won. They did not realize they won it, because they realized that, you know, the Fermi realized they made a mistake and they retreated. But they choose to promote that scene that we see in the film, where they destroyed that ship and then the war ended, right? Granted, that was a tactical advantage. That's humans discovering the weakness in the enemy, which is still very valuable in this war. But it's not the only reason what the queen decided that they made a mistake and they left. Now, humans, being humans, because that's what we do even today, they're like, okay, they attacked us, we're going to attack them back. So they spent the following 50 years attacking them. Now, again, this information is not in the movie, and I wish they would include it something. But my mentality is, They are constantly being attacked 50 years in a row. You know they're technologically advanced to go back to Earth and retaliate. They didn't. And 50 years passed, receiving attack after attack after attack of Earth, and they never retaliated. And that's a question that I have that I don't think I'll have the answer.
That's a wrong employment of the word retaliation, Robert. Retaliation doesn't happen without provocation. At this point, humans are not able to ants are not able to retaliate because they were the provokers and the initiators of this attack.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
that's semantics, because I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that
And-
regardless if it's retaliation or not, they were 50 years receiving attacks from Earth,
Mhm.
and they never attacked back.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, it is like, well, you mean that we've been attacking them for 50 years?
Correct.
We've been trying to exterminate them, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much like the Klendathu War, where they had to fight back across the supply lines.
Yes.
Yes. Now think about look
Like
at
I
it
said,
from-
that's the FPS. This is the RTS. It's all good.
Yes, and I mean, think of it from a strategic and psychological standpoint. The only reason that they turn out to become pacifists is because they could not kill us and exterminate us. Because if the first strike would have been successful, humans in this story would have not make it out alive.
But I also feel a little different, and this is something that I don't understand from them. The only thing that I can explain, maybe if I read the second book, I have more answers. But they would have to be pacifists, because if you have a country that is attacking you constantly, I would send people back. It's like you dish it out, I dish it out. You dish it out, I dish it out, and we all lose. But the Fermi didn't.
But it
And-
looks like probably we were keeping the ants on a corner all the time. So it's like they don't have the opportunity to really. And when they show the planet, they are on a planet stranded, trying to get out from it because they're out of resources. So they're not looking on a very good spot when it comes to advantages in warfare.
Yeah, but I find it hard to believe that they can't travel to Earth. They did it again. They did it once. They can do it again. And they didn't seem to me like they went back in technology.
No.
And they had a lot of ships.
That's something that they messed up on the movie. I think the timelines between traveling so far interstellarly. His family shouldn't be alive by the second way back.
That's another thing that I think, and Anthony, you questioned that too. I think it wasn't stated how far they were going, and I think that was smart, because it could have been anywhere. I mean, we could imagine that it was outside our solar system, but I honestly don't know.
Oh yeah, I think it's better that way, because it's like while at the same, it gives us a little bit more specific ending at the movie with him like waking up in his ship to supposedly maybe even put that egg somewhere. But at the same time, it makes us wonder, well, where, like, how far did you have to go?
Yeah. And I think when movies do that, it's kind of replicating the success of a book, because they're giving you enough information to make you make your own choice and imagine. And that's why books are so successful, because they let their reader do all the imagining. And I love when movies do this. They make you wonder, what's going on, how far. So going back to what I was saying, and I know we know Gio's opinion on it. I don't know if you want to add any more to this, Gio, but what is
Death to all the ants.
I want to hear for everybody else in here, as far as that miscommunication thing. And I do agree with you guys, and this is something that I feel maybe the movie failed story-wise. But I don't know that they could have done anything, because there's so many limited time that you have for a film. But I wish they would include a little bit more hints on
you would think
what really happened.
Yeah, you would think during the time that both sides would at least try to communicate with each other. And I'm sure, like on our side, like there's the people who are pushing for communications, but the people above them, they've got the pressure from like everyone else on the whole world that's concerned about millions of people dying again, and so like there's a lot of pressure, to go to war, or like to handle how we always handle things. And I think maybe like maybe trying to communicate them got lost in the translation somewhere, during during all that. But
You have a really good point there, because in the movie specifically, you can hear how they say when Ender was asking, you can't communicate with them. It's impossible. And that is, to me, I have to believe that was a military talking. I find it very hard to believe the scientific minds in this IP would not be trying, and were they blocked by the military, because it seems that after the first attack they have 50 years of planting fear in the entire planet when nothing's really happening.
Well, I mean, like, they don't have to play. Like, if some aliens came down and killed what is it, like in the what is it, 11 million, 1 million people? Like, boy, that is a scar that will last the rest of our days, like on this planet.
Not only that, but I want to point out a disparity between science schools of thoughts that was very, very clearly displayed, because you saw how his second in command, which was the psychological one, was completely disregarded back to back in every single try that she had.
Yes.
So you could see in here a big imbalance and disparity that it cost them dearly, because basically he was completely disregarding the importance of the mental stability and health of these subjects among the military.
Tragedy, and I'm going to call it tragedy. The tragedy in this story is the fact that they couldn't communicate. If they couldn't communicate, the queen would have told them, "Sorry, we made a mistake. How can we make it up?"
Yeah, that is true. And then, and I would say that the bugs had an unfortunate, unfortunately they came to Earth. And like
wrong neighborhood.
Yeah,
well,
I guess it's like you and the boys like kicking in the door somewhere, some house, then you realize someone lives there, and he's chasing after you now. Like
yep.
And he's like a famous murderer from
yeah, he's a pro killer. He's like old man, like Old Man Johnson. I heard he killed 50 men in the war. You know what I mean? Like that kind of guy.
Literally, man. It's like they came and knocked on my door, and I was like, "Hello, how are you?"
But yeah, they didn't really understand. Like, I mean, like they didn't know who they were dealing with. Let's be honest. Our entire history on this planet, everything has tried to kill us, and with that, like,
I can verify that. I live in Australia,
and it's still trying to kill us.
That's right.
So, like, and they had they would have had no idea, like, just the links that we would go to protect ourselves. And we will go to any lengths to ensure the continuity of our race. I'm like, that's something I can count on, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was also a problem with and I don't want to call it a political situation, but maybe like the point in the expansion and evolution of the Formics where they were getting a bit desperate to find a new planet. So rather than having the time and capacity to like study the Earth for a decade and work out, oh, well, these ape things that are running around, they've built buildings and they've sending stuff up into orbit. Obviously, they must be intelligent, even if we can't talk to them, because they're doing all this stuff. No, they walked up and went, "Oh, you can't talk the way we talk. Clearly, you're not intelligent. Let's wipe you out." It was a rush job. It was shitty lowest common denominator contracting.
I strongly feel.
I know we feel sorry for the ants, but we was stupid and not very intelligent. Bottom line.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes.
But I strongly feel that the author of the book was trying to emulate what humans would do. And that's why I find it very fascinating, because
no, I disagree. It's not what humans would do. It's what humans would do under certain circumstances with certain directives.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at Star Trek, they don't do that. They try and study everything for years.
Yes.
That is sci-fi, but let me explain where I'm coming from.
Not only that, Robert, in real war historical data, we have something called envoys. We try to send messengers to the enemy territory to see if there could be an exchange of words. We always try to evade and leave violence as the last resource.
Let me explain where I'm coming from. And you guys let me know if you feel. I was actually, and God, I wish I find that link. There was a conversation that someone was having with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And they were talking about extraterrestrial life. And the conversation, I think, was around the fact that, why are we alone? Why we haven't found them? Where are they? The typical question we have.
They're avoiding us because we suck.
Yep.
It's like a demilitarized zone. Like that solar system, they're stay away from there. It's like a demilitarized zone.
Yeah, we were in the void.
Mostly harmless.
So something that he said really appealed to me, because he says, we're very human-centric. We're extremely human-centric for all the reasons that you guys have spoken just minutes ago. We're very human-centric. And he said, unless they're human-liked or very close to us,
Humanoid.
Yeah, we would not know that they are sentient. And this, I feel strongly, where the book was going. They're kind of flipping the script and say, okay, what would it be if it was aliens that were alien-centric and not human-centric like we are? And just because they're not close, in the case of this story, just because humans could not telepathically communicate, they were not sentient. That was a very, alien-centric way of thinking.
Sure. We probably would just think they're just like giant animal bugs, with all their clittering and clattering and all that, and they just think we're smart apes. You know what I mean? Like, we build stuff.
We are smart apes.
Yeah, but like literally, these are apes.
I think that humanity, when they saw alien spaceships coming into the atmosphere, they will go, "Holy shit! They can travel the stars. They must be intelligent." But we were just sitting around our planet. We weren't traveling the stars. If we traveled the stars to their planet first, they might have had a completely different opinion, even though we couldn't telepathically communicate. Because they rocked up and went, "Oh yeah, they're down there. They're not telepathically communicating with us. They can't be intelligent. Let's just wipe them out."
I think they were more tempted. They were too focused on the prize. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we found one finally.
I think if humans would have been the ones invading the Formic, I think the same thing would have happened.
Probably. Like you see that in Avatar. That's because they got something we want specifically.
In Avatar is interesting because we go with a predatory interest to exploit the place, and still we make some kind of diplomatic attempt. But that was completely overshot and bypassed in this movie. There was not a single diplomatic aspect where they came, sent an envoy.
Why?
Yeah, but to Robert's point, what are they called in Avatar? I forgot the race.
Navi?
Navi.
Yeah, they're
People.
humanoid. They're humanoid.
Navi.
they're humanoid with like with echoes
Unagi.
of our past, like our past like tribal sort of mentality. Like we can relate to these people though,
and they communicate with sound.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's another thing you mentioned, Ray. It is very, very human centric to think that communication needs to happen with sound, because what we need for sound, we need this liquid that we call air to transfer our vibrations. That is not common in the universe. So yeah, in popular belief, English is not the main way of communicating in the universe. Sorry, guys.
Damn it. Gosh darn it. Well, we need to bring English to these heathens.
But you see where I'm going with this? It is very human centric to think that voice communication, or sound, to be more precise, sound communication is the only way of communicating. And that's where the Fermi failed, because for them it's very Fermi centric, saying if you don't communicate via telepathically, then you're not sentient. I don't know if you see where I'm going with this, but that's where, when I was reading the book and when I actually watched the movie, it's like, wow, that, again, I'm an overthinker, so maybe that's my problem.
I guess that this movie is a great storytelling for my assumption is the mother of all fuck ups.
Yes, I have to agree with that.
Yes,
assume makes an ass out of you and me.
You and the Fermi, yes.
You and the Fermi.
So that would be a Shifumi.
But honestly, I mean, I am not brilliant mind. That's the truth. I am not scientist or have a doctorate or anything, and it doesn't take much logic for me to understand that studying your enemy, even your enemy, studying them to try to comprehend them, is the first step to winning or having a fair fight with them, where you're not gonna have all the losses. And it seems to me that our ant friends, they didn't do any study.
Yeah, they just didn't follow the science. That's all.
I'm disappointed, Gio. I thought you had a PhD in chaos.
Yeah, what happened?
He has 2 PhDs
that doesn't
in
take
chaos.
much thinking. That takes the whole opposite of thinking.
Wasn't it Harvard? I think it was Harvard, right?
It was hard, but it was Harvard. It was not a board.
He went to hardboard? What?
Hardboard.
Hard cardboard.
What's going on?
You got a PhD from hard cardboard. Okay.
I have a PhD. That's true, but I don't think that comes into scholars studies.
Scholarly PhD.
You can find more about that in Only Gians.
Only Gians. There you go. Stay tuned. Oh, Ray's face was epic.
Check it out a month later on YouTube, ladies and gents.
I could definitely be Australian, right, Ray?
Oh yeah.
I might move over.
I mean, you can also be very astute when you want to. You just got to want to.
Yeah, I might move over there, marry a kangaroo, and live in the savannah. Who knows?
We have an outback. We don't have a savannah.
Okay. Hello there.
I live in the outback, which is the Australian savannah.
Throw another shrimp on the barbie.
Oh my god! Oh man,
we don't even have shrimp. We call them prawns. That's the weird thing.
Oh god. Oh, so can we talk about this?
No.
Okay. I think
no, go ahead. I just thought
can we talk about the psychology?
I don't know. Can we talk about the psychology?
I don't have
it was completely dismissed in the movie, so for sure we should.
I don't have a degree, but I can still talk about it, I think. What I mean is, sorry to be the king of out of context, but I love out of context things. What would that do? What happened to Ender at the end of the film, and disregard the fact that he is should we say, a kid. I mean, in the book, this kid started at 6 years old in the school, so we know that we're very young. Now, trying to put it in perspective, right? We know that Ender was young, but even if Ender was, let's say, 26, 27 years old, and this happens, what can we say about the psychology of this, of what happens at the end? I think, as an adult, and again, this is just me, so I'm curious about your thoughts on this. As an adult, it is a very traumatic event to be told, this is a simulation, and then later, you make your decisions accordingly. It is a simulation, so no harm, no foul, and the objective is to win the game, right? Because as you're told, it's a game. I am a gamer, so I can relate to this. And then you take decisions that you would not probably normally take them in real life, because it is a game. If you play, for example, tabletop games or D&D, you definitely would relate to this, where you would put in the lives of people that you feel are NPCs in danger or in the path of death. And then after this is done, to be told, even if it is not realistic, let's assume that it's just all in a game, right? You're on a computer screen and somehow that is happening in real life. You're told at the end that all the decisions that you have taken were in fact real and were affecting real people, and it was not an actual simulation.
You see, Anthony, this is the reason why when I play Halo with Robert, we have to wait for every single NPC that we find. And if they don't all fit on the car, we have to walk slow as hell so everybody can come together, even though they're going to get killed in the next checkpoint.
Robert, I would ruin your gaming experience, sir. I would execute them all.
I celebrate when they all die, and I go like, "Oh, we all fit in the car now."
Yeah, no more stragglers.
But to be fair, and this is something that I told Gio every time we play, is that I like the fact that I have a lot more shooting people. It's not just me shooting. I have NPCs shooting with me. So the more people that I have, that I feel the more help I get when I'm destroying the enemy. But yeah, it is a running joke. So if you guys want to, join our Discord.
To add to the psychology, I understand what happened to Ender. He's a kid, but I would hope that as an adult, it's not like you'd be surprised that the simulation turned out to be a real thing.
Yeah,
I don't
see an adult man just lashing out like he did at the end, right?
Yes. I mean, it would tell me that this person, it's not really a full blown adult because it's too naive and too gullible, and it will show a cosmic amount of lack of commitment to the mission.
Yeah, because for all he could have known, the thermite or whatever she is, the thermian, I don't know. She could have been manipulating him too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
And he would have believed that, and I'm like, prey upon his distrust of his superiors and like how they lied to him. Oh, I won't lie to you, and go replant the seed of this alien race and see what happens in 100 or so years.
Not only that, it could be even so. This is the way that we get to control a whole race by literally just harvesting it from within us. They're having a human now be the progenitor of the well-being of the ant race completely. So, I mean, I don't think that the ants are going to grow to hate humans because even though we kill them, we're becoming their savior too now.
Oh, yeah.
For that, I think that the way I see it on a standardized version, being in a military environment, doing a simulacrum, you should have the same commitment as this is real life. So if he twists and they say, "Oh, it was real," they might be a little shocked, but it's not gonna be something that is gonna shatter your personality and your whole sense of reality.
Yeah,
shouldn't.
you shatter your
Because
whole world. It's like
exactly, because then it means that you were a fool just because it was a game. So why are you even here? Yeah,
Uh,
like these people are enlisting in military intergalactic school. They should know there's a lot at stake. And I mean, when we're putting aside the right or wrong of how this war went, society has been shaped like from World War II to from World War One to World War II for war because this attack really, really scarred them for generations to come. You know?
there is a reason why I was asking that question. How you guys feel that the psychology on a just to put in perspective on an adult
mm,
on a similar situation where this adult is maybe he's a gamer, right? And he's told this is a game and then realizes it's not. And he actually did atrocities. So what he thought it was a game, it was okay because it was a game. I mean, look at the games now.
it's
Call
like
of
the
Duty.
movie Gamer.
Yeah,
So they realized it was real. And it's like, oh man, I was really killing people.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the psychology of this, I guess, Ray, we haven't heard from you on this topic, but how do you feel the psychology of that? I mean,
Oh,
I feel that it would be a trauma to a
here's
normal.
one thing. Here's one thing that I wanted to add before we give the floor to Ray on this. Uh, we tend to think that psychopaths are bad. There's a good use for psychopaths when it comes to warfare. And I saw this on a video about a psychologist guy, and he made a great point. Well, he used the Vikings taking over the Saxons, for example, back in medieval times, and he says a normal person would get traumatized by raiding, killing, and robbing and doing all the war crimes that were done when taking over new lands. When you have a psychopath, this person is gonna go and do whatever, come back, and will be happy to go back again and do the fighting. So it's very important to keep that in mind because, for example, you dislike a Space Indiana Jones, but I think that he played kind of like that role of being a bit psychopathic and the commander guy that was a legend too, where there's no remorse shown to them and a mere drive to succeed at this. And I think that that is the reason.
Yeah, we missed the last thing you said.
Okay,
The last two words.
and I think that that was the reason for their drive to be so centered about victory, and they lack a lot of humanity in how they saw things.
Yeah, they're hardened by war,
Yep.
and they knew something that no one else
Anthony,
knew.
breathe, blink. Anthony looks shocked.
They knew something not everybody knew, and it's the fact that what they consider to be drones were actual real people. So I think 50 years of that, sending people to their death, will take a toll where it normalizes death. And it kind of chips away at their humanity.
Yeah. That's why I don't know if you remember when we were doing the watch party, but it kind of bothered me because Ender was just making the choice of sacrificing his teammates like pawns to get the goal done so easily and like with no remorse or second thought that I was like, this motherfucker's looking this as a game. And if this is a simulacrum and training for real war, you're just sending your comrades to die so you can get a point across the freaking goalie. Come on, bro. You know?
And I think that's why he took it so hard, because it was exactly that. He was treating it as a game, and then he told that he did it for real.
That's the name of the movie, Ender's Game. That's the problem. Like that's the movie. It gives itself wholly away to a very centric and meaningful way by the name alone. When you think about it, because the kid is looking at it as a game, but his groomers are taking advantage of this to exploit the benefit of it at its maximum core. They have a goal, and the mean is just a way for an end. You know, that's what it becomes.
Well, it's at least a double entendre, the title, because you've got Ender's Game. It's a game that Ender's playing. And you've got an Ender's Game, which is he's ending the Fermi race.
Yeah.
Oh, and also game is actually an war and game are similar, like
True.
congruent words. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, Ray,
So-
you can.
Yeah, Ray. I'm sorry. We went.
I'll get there eventually. No, it was convenient. I had to run off for a minute.
Cool.
So the psychology is a little bit muddy. I think it's probably more obvious in the book. I haven't read the book, but from what Robert's been telling me, it's more obvious in the book because we have more information. But the psychology is a little bit muddy in the movie, and that could be due to the fact that they lost some of their funding, so they couldn't do some scenes.
Yes.
So there might have been a little bit more, it might have been a little bit clearer if they'd been able to create the story in the original format that they intended. But the psychology is complex because you've got a genius who outthinks adults.
Yeah.
But he hasn't got the maturity to be able to follow through with what he works out. And they learn this about him very early on. And it is made very, very clear when he hurts Musco, when they fight in the bathroom. And he,
Oh, yes.
I'll be like, hey, the rest of us will be like, hey, that motherfucker came at me. Whereas he goes home and like cries about it.
Well, that goes back to the whole thing at the start about when I understand my enemy, I learn to love them. And he understands too much.
He takes it.
I mean, the whole idea of the military is need to know. And, you know, people go out there and fight. You know, the guys who were piloting those drone ships, because apparently they were piloted, weren't they? They went out there knowing that they had to fight for the human race and so forth and so on. But they had no idea that they were going to be sacrificed. They thought they were going to have a chance of survival.
But that is the meaning of military too. Like you should go all the way in knowing that you should be willing to die for the cause without any second thought.
But most people don't work that way.
Yeah, no commitment.
Well, there's commitment, but then there's self-sacrifice, and not many people are keen on the whole self-sacrifice.
Self-preservation gets in the middle, like a virus.
That's because they don't have what it takes to become a citizen.
Oh boy! Now we're mixing our stories. But anyway,
are you doing your part?
They're doing their
not only
part.
forever.
Science Fiction Remnant wants you. Go and subscribe in our YouTube channel.
Awesome.
So yeah, sort of to wrap it up, you've got a kid who, and we all know that kids can be hyper intelligent, but you need the experience and you need your brain to finish developing before you can really grasp the concepts of morality and sacrifice and all these sorts of really important, deep things, and weigh them up and be able to accept the consequences of actions that involve those issues, right? So that takes maturity. And he had the intelligence to come up with the strategies that use sacrifice and all that sort of thing to get the win, but he didn't have the maturity and his brain hadn't finished developing because he was obviously like an early teen or maybe a mid-teen tops, to be ready to take on that sort of responsibility. So you have a guy who's capable but can't deal with that capability. So that was the rub.
So what would you call me? You would call me an early mature person because I wanted to whack my brother for being annoying as hell at the age of 10 or 12 with a crowbar or a hammer, but I did know better and I didn't do it because I know they would kill them.
What? What?
Well, that's
the
that's understanding the consequences. That's not really weighing the morality because you wanted to do it. You just
yeah,
didn't
'cause
because you knew.
I didn't want to kill them though. I just wanted it to hurt.
Well, Ender didn't want to kill Basco either. And in fact, one of your points here that hasn't come up yet, Robert, is
Yeah, so I will venture to say that in Ender's mind, it was like he was just playing laser tag in
Yeah.
space.
Yes.
Ender's
Moron
not
kid.
willing. When Ender
Moronic
may be
kid.
able to fight and everything, but he's not willing to accept the responsibility of his actions that lead from his his ability to fight or his willingness
Yes.
to do it.
I mean, they wanted him to do it. They
Yeah.
charged him with doing it, and he knew how to do it.
Mhm.
He just wasn't ready to deal with the psychological consequences of doing it.
Right.
And that's the rub, as I said. But Robert, one of your points here in the notes is in the book, Ender kills the Stilson boy and Bonzo, although Graf never tells him, and he doesn't find out until after the war, where he's tried for murder in both cases.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the boomerang came back and hit him in the head. Both cases, however,
you know what
as
meaning? You know what meme is perfect for that, right?
Hmm?
Hey, now this was your idea.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's a whole nother kettle of fish with that situation.
This
in the
whole
books.
operation was your idea. That's what it is. That's what the line is. Star Wars, yeah.
So you see that's another
You
point
see,
on how
this movie helps me understand Anakin now.
I just want to win this fight, but I want to win the next one after that. I'm like, really? Do you? Because you're acting like a little bitch.
Well, you know the most effective military strategy is to take out all the Op 4. If you don't leave anybody behind, they can't stab you in the back.
I mean, that's true.
It's called
I'm pretty sure that
risk
was our
management.
objective the whole time.
Risk management and assessment.
Called what?
You eliminate the threat, there's nothing to worry about.
I'm pretty sure that's been like our tactic since forever. Like, oh, hey, there's this man-eater that's been harassing our village for the past 6 weeks. We better get some boys together and go take care of it. Finally.
And of course, if you want to make sure, you kill the kids as well.
Yep, you kill the cubs too, or you make them your own.
Anybody want to pet Fermi? They eat a fair bit.
I mean, dude, like if he would have turned that over to the military command, they would have run all kinds of tests on that.
Yeah.
Anybody find it curious the name of the oh boy. God. And if you don't know what's going on, please subscribe.
I just posted the solution to our argument.
The younglings.
Oh wow.
Who would have known that a scene will become such a horrible dark humor meme?
No, like there's so many freaking memes from the Star Wars movies. Oh my god.
Man, I was watching one of like when War Machine suggested going back in time and killing baby Thanos.
Yeah.
And then it says like Anakin Skywalker has joined the chat.
Yeah.
Right after the suggestion.
Wow. I have another question, and maybe this is just me. I'm pretty sure it's just me. But the name of the alien race, the Formic, every time that came up in the film, I don't know why not in the it didn't happen in the book at all. It happened only in the movie. Every time they name it, every time they mentioned it. In my mind, I go to the Formics the Fermi paradox.
Well, they call them the Formics, not Fermi.
Correct.
Now, Formic as soon as I hear that, I think of formic acid, which is the acid that they inject into you when they sting you. Because, and I feel really dumb as a biologist not finding this out until a couple of months ago, but I always thought that ants bit you with their mandibles, and that's what caused the pain. But no, they grab you with their mandibles and then they sting you. They have a stinger on their tail. And I did not know that as a biologist. I feel so dumb.
No, but yeah.
So yeah, but what they inject into you is formic acid.
And that's why they call them the Formics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But I just wanted to mention that because it happened. Like I said, it didn't happen to me in the book because it's what Ray just mentioned. But in the movie, for some reason, every single time I go there, my mind just goes there. And that's why I said maybe it's just me. I'm pretty sure it's just me, but I wanted to ask and see.
It's all just you.
It's just me. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
It's fish. What can I say?
Okay, so I don't know if we are at the point where we should ask the last question, or anybody has any points. I think we're leaving this movie alone too quickly because we had a really heated conversation. I feel like we're taking it easy.
I think that the fact that we have the images going on right in front of us ignite with more fire the conversation back then than now trying to just do a recollection and recalling the situations.
Well, the podcast is only the beginning. I mean, we'll continue to discuss this on the Discord. So.
The podcast is only the beginning.
And that is our very own Captain Chaos for you.
Yeah. I considered doing that, but he does it better.
Yeah. He is the chaos incarnate. So
I am more in tune with the dark triad traits of a human being.
They said bring the chaos.
Yes.
Bring the chaos, baby.
Awesome. Now let me ask this question. Graph. Dun, dun, dun.
My hero.
Your favorite person.
My favorite.
Space Indiana Jones.
I feel that I am alone here. I feel. Let me give my thoughts and then we go around and collect everybody's thoughts on it. I believe he has a job to complete. I believe that his humanity was chipped away. The fact that he's been in the military for such a long time, and the fact that he has been sending people to their death.
Was he involved in the invasion? I can't remember.
Like 50 years. Can you? So, like, if you were 20 when the attack happens, that means, like, as the movie's going on, you're 70.
He wasn't a young man, obviously.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't 70.
No.
You wanna know how Robert feels about Graph? Like this.
Okay,
Robert, you need to control yourself.
Moving on.
I'll get you some Imodium.
I bet you didn't expect that
one. Moving on. Graph. He has a job to complete. I think his humanity was chipped away, sending so many people to their death. I think he started very young. And that's actually, well, it's obvious from this film if these kids are being drafted based on the book at age 6. So it leads me to believe that he was in the program for a long time. Based on the book, I like to assume that he was in the program at age 6. So it is very easy for someone to be in that program for such a long time and lose their humanity. One thing that it kind of bothered me, but maybe there is a point. You guys have alluded to this. How they were so hell bent, and we talked about this, about going to, like creating this massive retaliation in balance to their attack on Earth. But he was a master, and just like Harrison Ford mentioned, he was a master manipulator. He found this kid, and he was vouching for this kid, Ender, to the point of obsession. And I don't know if you guys noticed this in the film.
Yes.
There have been many kids, but he felt he was the chosen one. And he was doing things, he was cutting corners to make sure that he was going to be the one, to the point of almost losing him for his tight grasp. And he almost lost him. And he had to bend.
Lucky him that Ender had a flaky ass sister.
Oh my, yeah, like thanks, sis. Like I'm pouring my heart at you. You tell me to literally go back to the devil.
Yep, literally. Go back to the dance, the wolf, the mouth of the wolf. Yeah.
Hey, Ender, what's your sister's name? Plot convenience?
Plot convenience?
Yep. Flaky bitch.
I mean, it wasn't Valentine, because that's a dumb name.
Let me tell you something, Robert. Now that you mentioned that, you know what? Like I drove idea from that tell me that even Graf was not such a fucked up guy compared to what he had. Look at the soldier Todd from Russell Crowe, from Kurt Russell. Remember that movie?
Soldier.
Soldier. That's how the kids and every military person should turn out. So fucked up that they're socially inept.
Yes.
But it's not the case. Even though they are on a military environment or whatever, they are very, very socially fluent compared to the reality of brutal training that will make them killing machines.
Well, that brings into question the fact that in violence, if you take away, how can I word this out? If you take away the direct contact to violence, doesn't make it any less mentally for the person causing it. And the reason why I'm saying this is like a soldier on a war terrain, on a battlefield, versus a drone pilot, or someone that's maybe controlling a drone robot on the ground.
He does. I think that you're completely dissecting the shock, the reality shock of the instant permanent consequence of action when you're doing that. But I think that is a very dangerous terrain with very, very high stakes risk to play, because you can literally shatter a person mentally forever by doing so. So it's a short term solution with good high yielding reward, but at the cost of that person's mental structure completely.
The reason why I mentioned this is because I think this movie plays with that concept.
Yes.
These kids were doing remote violence. And it's actually worse than that, because they didn't know they were doing the violence. They thought they're playing a game. Still, I think that actually worked. And I think that explains your reasoning as to why they didn't turn like the soldiers from the movie Soldier.
Well, in the movie Soldier, they actually made them kill their colleagues as part of the training. So it is a very animalistic survival of the fittest scenario.
Mm. That's definitely true. The movie's awesome.
I love that movie, man.
Did you guys? You guys were talking about drone operators and like how they might feel like detached from like their actions and like the consequences of those actions. Did you guys watch that science fiction movie Outside the Wire?
Oh my God, yes.
Hell yes.
And we need to cover it. We need to cover it.
Love that movie.
That's a great movie.
And I watch, for example, Sniper, which gives you the other reality, that on the ground, face to face, messed up reality that soldier and decisions that soldiers have to make to save their platoon, and the rough realities of war that many people don't ponder on.
Right, and then like the fact that like the drone operators all like quoting metrics at them, like soldiers, they've got like their own set of rules, whereas drone operators, they don't have rules, they've got metrics.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
That's what I sound so hardcore when I talk about commitment of taking action and making decisions, is because even though I am not in those scenarios, I try to value the sacrifice of these soldiers and the ones in the movie too, because they represent an ideal of what justice and protection of a race or a group are. And I think that the least respect that we can do as overthinkers is to really put in perspective that everything that comes behind every choice that they have to make for the sacrifice of protecting their nations.
I would have loved to see even read a book from the perspective of the soldiers inside those ships that got destroyed in their attack. That would have been a really cool perspective of what really happened. At least
It
that's
would
my.
and could you imagine like nobody knows that children are running the show. Like nobody, like they can't know. I mean, like, well, first of all, like if you're a soldier on one of those ships, and then you learn that little children are ordering your commanding officer around, what's that going to do for your morale?
Shatter it.
And that's the reason why they keep it. Actually, it is a secret. So the kids are being trained, knowing that if they pass the class, they're going to go to battle, and they don't know that they're actually in war. And so I don't know. It brings a lot of questions. Like
It's like talking to a waifu VTuber, and then she turns off the voice changer, and she's a 300-pound dude on somebody's basement. It ain't cute anymore. You got this commander giving you order, and then you turn down all the voice changers, and he's just this little wimpy kid that doesn't even know how to kill a person. Ouchie.
Yeah. So that's one of the points that I wanted to make on this, and how this film touches those points very, very successfully. Of course, the book does a better job because there's a lot more information on it. But yeah, the movie does a great job on doing that. And that was the question that I had directly to direct response to what Gio mentioned about soldiers in the movie Soldier. But I wonder. I mean, at least the drone operators know that they are, the consequences of their actions, right? They might not have, they definitely do not have the point of view that we see in this film when the kids are being lied to, and they are actually doing actions, but they think it's a game. Ray, I don't know if I heard your thoughts on that, but I was just wondering or talking about the fact that if the fact that you put something in between you and the violence versus you doing the violence face to face, does it take away from the violence mentally?
Sure, it does. That happens all the time. Players on the internet who go and brutalize NPCs because they're not real people. But if you're out on the street, like 99 out of 100 people would never do that. You'd always have that one psychopath.
Yes.
Don't go far. You got the keyboard warriors. Are people that are trolls that abuse other people online, but in real person, they're pussies. They will not dare to actually tell you a single thing, and much less if they see that you stand up for yourself. I find those people, and I find it hilarious. Like, there are people like that, bro. There are people that will brutalize you verbally, that will try to insult your ass, and then if you meet them in real life, they are wimpy persons that are not even able to look at somebody in the eye.
Yeah. People,
So that mask
look,
is real.
people look for a situation where they can get away with it. It's the get away with it principle. If I could get away with it, I would do a whole lot more things that are morally questionable than I would do if, like, the cops were standing a few feet away, because the chances of me having to pay the consequences is much higher. So people's brains, even if they don't want to admit it, are always, weighing up the consequences versus the action, unless you put something in between, like drugs, alcohol, online gaming. You put something in between the action and the consequence, and people are way more likely to do it. It's been studied in many psychological studies. There was this one where they had people in charge of a pain button, and they were convinced to press the pain button, not knowing that they were electrocuting a guy in the next room, because there was the wall in between. But when they opened up the wall and they could see what they were doing to the person, they immediately stopped. And that's the sort of thing that we're seeing here. Ender didn't know that he was in charge of all these people's lives.
To experiments like that. I should never be invited to experiments like that. I would enjoy looking at the face changing with the button. I'll be like,
he was given a task to complete, and his intelligence grasped onto that task, wanting to complete it because it would give his intelligence something to do. But he was not given the weight of his actions until it was all completed and done. And that's when it all came crashing down on him, what he'd done. He'd not only been responsible for the death of thousands of humans on the ships, but he'd also wiped out a species. So that's why he reacted the way he did.
Yeah. And that's why I was talking about the psychology, because I mean, I think that's hard on a human. I'm human. I think that's hard on an adult.
Never mind a child, right?
Hey, forget about ants. But yeah. I think that at the end of the day, the law of deterrent, the law of deterrence, is what keeps us from being in perpetual chaos all the time. It's what keeps humans in check.
But you're in perpetual chaos all the time.
Yeah, but I'm well behaved. I am not killing and doing things that have no reparation or permanent consequence. Slapping my own pee-pee. Yeah, well, that's on me. But you know what I mean is, I think that's what keeps us from killing each other and being at each other's neck constantly for power, because that's everything that humans really always seek is power.
Well, you look at any breakdown of society movies like zombie apocalypses or any sort of apocalypse movie where law and order suddenly isn't there anymore, and people start doing all sorts of mean, nasty shit because they can get away with it, or they think they can.
Violence is the ultimate authority from which all other authority is derived from.
Yes, that's true. I mean, honestly, when Breaking Bad, no, when The Walking Dead came out, generations before me, like from your like generation of your time, guys, thought that zombies was something stupid about zombies, and people that didn't know or like sci-fi didn't understand until they watched this, and then they understood. Oh shit! Post-apocalyptic future is not really about the post-apocalypse. It's about how shitty human beings turn out to be when law is removed from society, and then they find it entertaining because they see how dark-natured we are in reality when you remove any kind of figure or institution that keeps us in check.
Well, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who wrote The Walking Dead said
Robert Kirkman.
Yeah, Robert Kirkman. He said that the zombies are just a background plot device. It's actually the people who are the biggest threat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Kind of what you just saying kind of reminds me of the time that Galactus became a mortal, and and the Fantastic Four were like trying to show him around and like show him why like humanity is worth not destroying or whatever. And but he wasn't ever swayed by that. But what he found really interesting was like the darker side of us is that because he saw like a homeless man, and he wondered why he didn't quit, or like he was impressed, but like when the chips are down, we keep going.
Yep.
I wanted to talk about the quote that we started the show with. And that has a little meaning to me. I know that the meaning that I take it might not be the context that it was used in the film, but this is a conversation that Enders had with his sister at the lakeside when he quit the academy, and apparently they're trying to convince him to come back. So the quote that we read at the beginning of this episode is, I had a lot of fights, Val. I won because I always understood the way my enemy thinks. And when I truly understand them, and she responds, you also love them. That has a deep meaning for me. And it wouldn't be surprised if you listen to our previous episodes. Because why I'm saying this is because if love, and I'm not talking about the common love that we see in films, a woman and the romantic love. I'm talking about love in general. The love for your neighbor, the love for your other humans, the humans that you share in this
You're
planet.
talking about brotherly love.
So war.
Is that bromance? Oh my god! Oh
I think if we have love in this world, we wouldn't have wars. And this is why I think that sentence speaks to me. Because if you understand, and you have a better understanding for that other person. And it needs to be mutual. So how many times have we spoke, Gio? And this is a running thing. I mean, we have spoken about this in so many other episodes where we are living in a spaceship, a very fragile spaceships. And this is all we have. And we're fighting about terrain or location.
For imaginary borders that we have created to segregate one another. We
Borders are
imagine
very
that. Well, we have made them very real. The truth is that we are all Earthlings, and we do not belong to one segregated area of terrain, geographically speaking, on this planet. We all we own, all of us, this little piece of rock that is floating up across space at an incredible speed, and nobody owns more than anybody else. These are all economic systems that we have created to create hierarchies and create posts of importance and less importance from human to human, when we are all matter and we are all important in the same aspect when we come to a humanitarian aspect. Now, what you say, Robert, I really like it. I think that this way of thinking comes very much from I read it on George Orwell's novel, where it says, the quote says, perhaps one did not want to be loved so much as to be understood. And when you are of a high functioning mind, you really feel more loved when you're understood than when you're irrationally loved, because love is not a very rational thing to feel.
Yeah.
But when I am understanding you, I am putting my time and mind to comprehend what you mean, what you see, and what is your perception of the world, so I could see the world through the lenses of your own view, which not many of us do. the whole premise of thinking of the reality that we're in this rock floating through space at incredible speed and is that very fragile environment, it is something that only an overthinker can agree with you that it is true. Most people are on pilot automatic, not really even thinking about the simplest complex things of life, let alone something so complex yet big part of our lives.
I mean, it's scary. Everything in space is dangerous to us. Everything in space is dangerous to us.
It's
And the only
100%
thing,
deadly.
exactly. And the only thing we have to protect ourselves is this little rock that is going through space. And I mean, you talk about asteroids here, maybe hitting Earth. I mean, we're traveling through space. What is that? What is that to prevent us from hitting something else? And that's something that people don't realize. And also for the viewer, for the audience out there, if you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube, I invite you to go on Google and look for images of planet Earth and the atmosphere. And in that image, and I know images don't do it any justice. If you hear um, conversations with astronauts where they actually tell you, their experience on watching that, it is very life changing. On those images, if you had time to go and Google it, you'll notice that the atmosphere, it is almost a thin as paper, and that is what's keeping all of us alive, humans,
It's
animals.
likened to the skin of an apple. So if the apple was the earth, the atmosphere would be the skin. It's
And cows fart. And cows farting also to give us greenhouse gases. Thank
Oh,
cows. Thank you, cows, for the parts. Not only that, but it is really a conglomerate of things in our system that allow us to stay alive. Like our moon is one of the main contributors to us having a good balance with our tides,
The looking
and exactly. And not only that, but Jupiter, which is in mythology called the father of all mythological gods created or whatever, he is our shield. Without Jupiter, we have long ago been hit by something and exterminated.
Mhm.
Another Big Bang hitting, bomb, everybody burned. Not even cockroach would have made it out of here. So and then we have an asteroid belt that also protects us from little things to keep on going and coming in straight collision to Earth. So there's a lot of little things that we take for granted or we don't even care for its existence that is still very real out there that are small contributors one by one to create one whole perfect system that keeps us going through outer space like a self-sustaining organism. It's crazy when you look at the grandiousness of everything in the universe and how perfectly it welds and works together. It cannot be an accident and by chance. That's the truth. It's beautiful and incredible.
talking about intelligent design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, it could. I wouldn't call it an accident, but I call it very unlikely.
Right. Well,
But
yeah, that's kind of the point.
but the whole situation is, and this is coming from somebody who's believes in God, but not so much the God that creates everything and runs everything, but more the God that's just out there, having provided the start, and everything else just went off on its own. But I mean, it's even more complicated than that, because if it wasn't for Saturn, Jupiter would have moved into the orbit of Mercury or even closer to the sun, and we wouldn't have had our shield at all. If it wasn't for Theia hitting Earth early in its formation,
Stage. Yeah.
we would have had a toxic atmosphere similar to Venus, and then we wouldn't have shown up here again either. So, I mean, there's all these things that happen, but then it's kind of like where the human beings existing on this planet after all of these unlikely things happened to allow us to exist, and it's kind of looking at the universe from a very, very tiny hole and a big cone, and that big cone is all the things that had to happen so we could be here in the first place. But because they did happen, we are here. So the chain of events may have been very unlikely, but they've happened at least once, and that's why we're here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's two sort of ways of looking at it. You can look at it like, that's so unlikely to happen that it couldn't possibly be an accident. And it's like, look at this chain of accidents that happened on the freeway the other day. It's so unlikely, but there it is. So,
And then there's Ray, way to say, Annie, the space glory hole.
oh, Jesus. You've always got to do that. I mean, you were sounding so goddamn intelligent about.
Yeah, what happened?
I had to ruin it, man. I had to ruin
You
it.
do.
You know,
You have to
cannot be a perfect streak.
Geo, dude.
Are we ready for final question?
Yeah, I was gonna go for that. So, if you're new to the show,
That was not the first final thoughts. Now with the final, very last thoughts.
exactly. In this show, at the end, we usually ask a question, and the question is, "What is your last thought of the thing we're covering?" And this is supposed to cover all the thoughts from the very first time that you watched it, including all the multiple rewatches, and all the way up to the most recent time that you watched this, taking in account any difference in perception, because that has happened to us a lot. Whenever we watch something a lot earlier in life, because us as humans, we do change, and we take a different perspective on the thing. So, what is the last thing that your last thought on the thing we're covering? Who wants to go?
I'm going to go last because Anthony basically said that we overshadowed him too much last time. So maybe we should let him go first.
Yeah,
we're gonna let quit overshadowing me. Stop it! Stop!
I don't want to throw shade. So
you're gonna be the first one actually to go, Anthony. But just before I say, I want to say that this is such malleable thing that Robert hated Graf, and now he loves him. He thinks that he's Space Indiana Jones. Now you can go, Anthony. What are your last thoughts on this movie?
Let's see. Overall, the whole show. I mean, like, if I were to give it like, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Honestly, I mean, the story's good. The visuals are good. There's a little bit of like plot holing going on for the reasons we've stated. But other than that, I mean, it's a solid sci-fi movie that's going to entertain you. I mean, like, that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it's between you and me, because Ray's gonna go last, right?
Just the two of us. Okay, I can go. I like the movie. I hate flaky sister. I think that she was way too much of a flaky character. Like I understood her selfish protectiveness to where I don't care about the world. I care about my brother's well-being. So screw military school or whatever, and compassionate. And then she's the first one to be like, "Oh yeah, you should go and actually do your part for this world." I was like, "What the fuck?" You know, like, did she get brainwashed? Aside from that, I think that all the characters kind of fit well in their roles. I totally accepted what they were. I think that they play it to the very, very big nature of what they had to offer. And honestly, I kind of understand our main character Ender. He's a kid, and he played perfectly, or was played perfectly for that aspect, really, because he got played, really. If you think about it, he got manipulated, and I think that they took full advantage of the lack of commitment to his choices and looking at this as a game. So it really gives you a good perspective of what we're really capable of, or we have no consequences for our actions. I think that is the underlying subliminal message that this movie has to offer too, is we're capable of great but terrible things, just like Lord Voldemort. Yeah, I said the name. He who must now be named. We're capable of great terrible things, if we have nothing holding us back from it. And I think that Ender was the embodiment of that reality. Uh, I think that was like one of the most important messages on this movie that I really like. And I mean, I found kind of comical that even though Graf is such a experienced military man, probably his whole life is already part of this, because this war or this a scenario of war has been going on for 50 years, and he looks like he's been longer than that around. So this is a big part of his life, yet he disregards completely the importance of mental and not compromising the mental status of his subjects.
Hmm.
He's very disregarding of that, so it looks very impulsive, really, when you think about it. That kind of like let me down a little bit. I know it would have made him more of an asshole to play that for his own benefit, but would have make a lot more sense too if he would have followed through by actually playing along with the psychologist to not be neglective of his underlings or soldiers, because he really was very neglective from that aspect. I think that the movie visually was very, very pleasing to the eye. They did a good special effects job with it. I think that being on the journey of a kid, you get that feel of wonderment and adventure throughout the training part, when they are like in the floating zero gravity training ground and everything. The simulacrum is all funny until it becomes real. They kind of did a good job on that part of selling you out until boom, it was true. So even though I'm dead inside, I totally get why you didn't expect that ending, Robert, and how it kind of like pulled the rug under your feet, and you were like, "What?" you know like you told me before we watch it, you told me like, oh, it took the air out of me. I totally get how you feel like that way. you know um but I think it's a good watch at least once. And I think that it has a lot of good teaching messages when you pay attention to everything that happens in it you know
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's my turn. My perspective obviously has been very different from all of you because I had the opportunity to have read the book. Um, I feel uh, when I think back and compare from when I first watched this film, and accounting for every rewatch in between, all the way to today, when it was the last time that we watched it. Um, I can't think of any differences in thought that I have had, and I'm trying to understand why. And the only thing that I can think of is that I came from the vantage point of have read the book first, which contains a lot more information than the movie could offer, especially on the ones that um, uh, the and I kind of lost my train of thought because of something I saw on the screen. But especially when I because it happens with every. We talked about this in previous episodes. It happens with many movies that we
most
see
of them.
from like earlier on, because we do change. But I wonder, and again, if you are out there listening, if you are in the same position as I am, where you watch the film, I mean, you read the book and then watch the film. um if you're in the same situation I am, where I think I got enough information from the book to be able to get a solid understanding of the film that will not change your understanding as you rewatch it continuously, which kind of makes sense in my head. Um, However, I love the visuals on this film. I love the actual concept of the story. That is something that I have not seen before, because it does touches on a lot of topics, like the ones that we have mentioned earlier on. um, um, you know, what would happen mentally uh, to a person if this happens? What is the ethical ramifications of their actions? What would happen? Something that we talked about is like how we are as humans. Um, they go and let's go. We finally in the future go and colonize other planets. How can make sure that we're not killing sentient species just because we have an actual understanding of what sentience should be like? And I think it is very smart from the writer to be able to touch on all those topics that are usually human centric from an alien perspective. And this is one of the things that I love so much about the story, not necessarily just the movie. The movie was just a plus because I was able to visualize most of the things. And I appreciated the fact that the movie uh, didn't destroy the story. Like it is very hard to do nowadays, and the reason why some of the movies were a disaster when they were imported from other things. I think that the creators of this film should be applauded because they, although it was not exactly the same for obvious reasons. I mean, we already talked about um, the reasoning for the Formic attacking Earth. Most of the information was completely, I wouldn't say 90% of the information was missing from the film, which paints a complete different perspective as to why they attack Earth. That's just one example, right? So taking that aside, I think they still did a great job porting the story from book format into a visual format. Um, but I appreciate this film. As I mentioned before, this is one of the films that I continuously rewatch. I actually own a copy, and I want to say I watch this at least once a year. I really, really enjoy it. And one of the cool things about this film is the fact that every time I watch it, I forget how much fun it was, and it's almost as if I'm enjoying it again. For the not necessarily for the first time, but it's kind of like that the pleasure you forgot, and you're, oh my god, and you go back and it brings memories. Um, the only thing that I might, as I mentioned earlier, that I regret is basically two things. One is that having the opportunity to watch it in the theaters, which I'll try to replicate, um, just pulling on my projector and watching it here with some popcorn, which is not the same thing, but close enough. And the other thing
I
that
can go. I can go and sit around, so I can make noises that you cannot control to make it feel more real, like you're in the movie. I can be that annoying watcher that is somewhere around the theater.
Yeah, he can walk across in front of you at inopportune moments with a box of popcorn and
there you go.
I'll even go. I'll even go with a girlfriend, so he can start listening to walk, 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 walk.
Oh my god. Okay. Moving on. But yeah, I really enjoy this film. I really enjoy the book. And the last thing that I not necessarily regret, because I can correct this, is not read book 2. Because I think most of my questions, the answer to most of my questions will be there. And I believe that is my final thought.
I guess it's my turn. So, as is often said by Robert, because he usually goes last, I agree with probably 95, 98% of what you guys have been saying. The angle that I wanted to take my last thoughts in was there will be a certain high slice of the movie watching public who will the reactionaries who just can't deal with watching something that challenges complex and somewhat icky topics. They might have trouble with this movie, so I don't recommend it to the reactionaries. But I think that most sci-fi fans have a good tolerance to icky topics because sci-fi is there to explore the possibilities, and the possibilities aren't all like sunshine and lollipops. The possibilities are often dark. Just look at Geo; he loves the dark ones. But this movie's not like ultra black. It does have some topics there that are somewhat uncomfortable to some people. But I think that the way that it's presented and the questions that it raises and the ideas that it asks you to think about are well worth considering. So in that angle, which I don't think has been covered by you three guys, this is a very worthwhile movie. It will get you thinking. And of course, that's the whole point of sci-fi, is to get you thinking. So especially if you're in the overthinker mob, which at least 75%, maybe more of the people here on the podcast right now are, well, we did a lot of thinking about this movie, as you can probably tell. So I highly recommend it for that. As was said, it's visually appealing. The story holds together. Could have used a little bit more detail, but a lot of movies suffer from that, in that they just don't quite have the budget to get all the little details in that would have really made it shine. But I can certainly forgive it that, and I think that you should as well, because I think that Ender's Game is a movie that everybody at some point in their lives should watch, specifically for the things that it makes you think about, if nothing else. So give it a look. It's well worth your time.
Awesome. Okay, so I believe I am ready to press the right button, right?
Hopefully.
Here we go.
The science and
Woohoo, it's the right button.
It was. I'm excited.
It worked. It worked.
I think Robert's got some stuff he wants to talk around, but I'll jump in first, seeing as I have the floor. So can we talk about ants, in specifically giant ants? But I've done a little bit of research while you guys were talking, and it turns out that the Latin name for ants is formic, which explains why the genus name for ants is, now this is really hard to pronounce, Formicaceae, I think it is, Formicaceae. So that's the genus name, and of course genus and species names all come from Latin generally. Formic acid was first found in ants, and because the Latin name for ants is formica, that's how it became formic acid. So apparently that's where it came from. So I thought I'd just update that, because I wasn't quite on top of my details on that one, and I've rectified it. So the thing that I wanted to talk about is, can we have giant ants? And it's a solid maybe. Now, it requires certain situations. Now, if the formicas or the formics are biologically highly similar to ants, it would mean that their breathing system is reliant on osmosis. So osmosis is the natural spreading out of molecules within a space. So a lot of biological systems require the concentration of ions on one or another side of a membrane. And osmosis is the opposite, so it's where things spread out naturally. Now, obviously, higher forms of animal life have lungs, which are a specific organ which is designed to pull in air, take oxygen out of it, and expel the stuff we don't want. Okay, so that's basically what lungs do. And to do that, they have all these tiny little gaps, much like your intestines do, so it can increase the chances of taking up nutrients. But the lungs have a high surface area, so that they have more chance of taking up oxygen. And then we have our blood system, which transports the oxygen around quite highly efficiently, so that we can get enough oxygen into our muscles so and our organs so that we can function and we can be stamina predators. So human beings are stamina predators. We would chase down animals and we would run them into the ground. So we just keep following them. Think about the African plain. Human beings in their very early days would just follow animals until the animals got really tired and fell over, and then they'd kill them and eat them. So that's basically what a human being is. It's a stamina predator. And that's why these days we have, in the Olympics, we have marathon running. Because human beings are very good at marathons. Because we are stamina predators. That's where it came from. So looking at the Formics being giant ants, the bigger the organism is, and if it requires oxygen, and I'm not entirely sure that the Formics do require oxygen. It's not really laid out very well in the movie because the planet that they were terraforming, that used to belong to the Formics, didn't have a lot of oxygen on it. Now, if the Formics required oxygen, they wouldn't have been able to survive there. There's no explanation in the movie. They don't go into the biology of the Formics particularly well. They don't say what molecule they burn for energy, so we don't know. But all we can say is if they're like ants, they do use oxygen. And if the larger the thing is, if it doesn't have a really efficient transport system for oxygen, which ants don't, they have trouble getting big. In fact, the whole insect sort of range of insect species, they can't get any bigger than they are at the moment because there's not enough oxygen on the planet to support larger versions of them. Now, that is what it's like now. In the past, the oxygen levels on Earth were much higher, and we had giant insects because they could exist. There was more oxygen, so the osmosis of that oxygen into their bodies was enough that with higher oxygen, you get more oxygen so they can grow bigger. It's just a matter of physics of oxygen supply without a highly efficient oxygen retrieval and transport system. So the Formics, if they relied on oxygen, would have a really hard time surviving on a planet unless it had a really high level of oxygen because of their size. And this is why we don't have giant ants on the Earth at the moment, because there's just not enough oxygen with their biology to enable them to survive if they got bigger. So
I will venture to guess that is the reason why we have big forms of life on the ocean that are able to easily sustain themselves due to the medium in which they coexist, compared to Earth and feeling the heavy gravity that affects our mass compared to in the ocean, in the water.
Oh yeah, well, actually, you've brought up a very good point, Gio, because the larger an animal gets, it cubes the weight of their structures. It doesn't double; it cubes it, which means that if you look at Attack on Titan, the anime which has the giants, giants would have a really tough time because their bodies would be so heavy that they'd collapse in on themselves.
Yep.
And the only reason that whales exist is because they're in the ocean and the water supports their bodies. You put a whale on the beach and it suffocates because it hasn't got the energy and the strength to fill its lungs. It can't breathe in because it's too heavy.
It makes total sense. Also, I don't remember where I watched this. I like to watch a lot of speculative docuseries, but there was a show that was talking about denser or more charged atmosphere with higher oxygen levels. And it is said that if we have, for example, 15% more oxygen in the air, you will be really able to be at your energy levels, and you could be running for 10, 15 hours straight without no need for resting, because you will be over oxygenating your blood. So you will have what do you call when you have too much, a surplus of energy in your bloodstream coming in just by breathing.
Well, that's not entirely accurate. If you were acclimatized to higher oxygen very slowly, you would be correct. But I'll get you to do a little experiment right now, and the listeners can try this as well. Hyperventilate. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it'll get
Breathe
me
in and out
dizzy.
really
It will
fast.
get me dizzy. It will get me dizzy.
Yeah, you get dizzy. Why? Oversupply of oxygen to your brain. We are very specifically tuned to our environment, to the
And
pressure,
smoker's lungs.
to the gravity, to the to the amount of oxygen, to the amount of sunlight. We are very highly attuned to our environment. That is why it is so hard to go to another planet, because the environment will be different, and we will really struggle to function.
No, not only another planet. That is why it's so hard to go to places with high altitude and breathe
Yes,
normally without getting dizzy or having problems.
that's right. That is why Olympic teams go and train at high altitude
Mm-hmm.
to improve their oxygen absorption, so that when they
Yeah.
come back to sea level, where most of the Olympics are held, except for Mexico City, which was a double whammy, because not only was it stupidly polluted air, but it's high up it's up in the mountains, so the oxygen's thinner to start with. The poor Olympic athletes were struggling so bad. There was very few records in the Mexico City Olympics because of the environment. The only people who could do any good were the Mexicans. So yeah, they swung that in their favor. But getting back to the topic, I mean, giant ants, possibly, depending on how they absorb oxygen, whether or not they have a more efficient way of taking oxygen or whatever molecule it is that they use to create energy out of the atmosphere. And obviously they lived in atmosphere because Ender was able to stand in the same room as one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, yes, you could get giant ants, but not on Earth at the moment. So, I mean, if the ants required more oxygen, then all the planets they're on should have had a much higher oxygen supply. And they would have had to terraform Earth with more oxygen to make it suitable for themselves. I mean, it reminds me of that episode that never was, Rakan, that we didn't get to do, Geo, because things kept breaking. It had the curse of life force, and they were terraforming.
Curse of life force.
and they were terraforming the planet, and you could not breathe around the stacks properly because they were terraforming.
That's true. That's
I mean, even, and we were terraforming that planet that was the forward mobilization base. So I mean that each species that becomes dominant on its planet will want to change other planets to suit themselves. So
of course,
we will want to do that as well. We would like to terraform planets to make it easier for us to live. It's just what the dominant species will want to do.
Yeah.
Robert, did you want to cover anything?
I have one thing, but I don't know if Chaos, I don't know if you wanted to go first or if you
I can go first. I actually have something written about warfare as seen as an art with a philosophical perspective. Warfare often is described as an art, blending strategy, creativity, and adaptability. Thinkers like Sun Tzu and Karl von Clausewitz have likened it to the craft required to deep understanding, intuition, and ability to anticipate opponents' moves. In this sense, warfare is not merely the means of destruction, but also an expression of human ingenuity and discipline, where victory depends on mastering the complexities of tactics, psychology, and resource management. However, the ethical implications of war complicates its categorization as art, which is true. Unlike traditional arts, which aims to inspire and elevate, warfare entails destructions and suffering, which gives it a little bit of a rough understanding of art, unless that you enjoy things as a tactician or RTS, like we mentioned. It's a way to appreciate this whole situation on the movie as art of war. Thus, whether it can truly be called art depends on the lens through which one view its purpose and outcome. Human versus extraterrestrial life, in extermination or survival. I actually was trying to ponder about like if it's excusable for the extermination of a race, because that's like the point that really like got to Roar and like bother him. Like we shouldn't have killed antibodies of ours. We should just like go and like knuckle up outside, catch me outside kind of thing with the ants, you know. Well, here's where it goes that the ethics of self-preservation and how I see it, just a very very black and white kind of thing, that it just became a matter of self-preservation. Self-preservation is a fundamental instinct both for individuals and species. In such situations, humanity might justify extermination as a defensive measure to ensure survival. And if you think about it, we didn't really see separation of nations on the movie, which is the other consequence of a bigger threat. A common enemy and aversion is always that one thing that brings us all together, no matter what, no matter our differences. Remember that how we're talking about all that these imaginary barriers that we have created to subcategorize one another when we are really just one race under one big rock. This is the one thing that will get us to forget about all this bullshit and instinctively accept reality that we're all one and act as such in a collective manner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that. I mean, I think that it was a very interesting way to see the whole situation, and really, it kind of brings back that very very primal yet necessary instinct that we all have to forget about all of these imaginary barriers that we create to separate one another, and really just accept instinctively that we are all one and the same when it comes to being a human being, that there is no black, white, yellow, uh, this continent or that. We're just humans. At the end of the day, all positive blood is going to be all positive blood. Doesn't matter where you're born, you know,
Yeah.
and vice versa, you know. So I think that drives it home in that aspect. Uh, Honestly, for the sake of the argument on your side, like I did wish that the ants had some kind of envoy and try to probe the situation. I think that that would probably even bring a big fruitful relationship. But I think that is also how you think because of watching so many years of Star Trek have maybe shaped up that expectation that we always, as an intergalactic group with more others, try to find some kind of common point and fraternize, right? I mean,
Well,
at least that's what happened in Star Wars, in Star Trek, right?
it's Star Trek is always known to be the most optimistic uh, uh, view of the future, and that it's not always rosy, obviously, but compared to other sci-fi IPs, it is the most rosy because of that fact that you mentioned. How not just humanity but aliens as well come together in the common good of all of them together. But no, that's just a facet. That's just one opinion within, um, like Ray mentioned, um, sci-fi is an experimentation, and like I mentioned in previous episodes, sci-fi is a thought experiment. This is our playground. This is how we play with concepts that are not the norm. So, yeah, um, I guess I can go into my what I was going to talk about, but before I jump in, I wanted to say thank you for to Anthony from Terra Alpha. I think he had to drop, um, but we appreciate him being on our show. If you have not listened to the podcast, I'd advise you to just search in your favorite podcast platform. They are also on YouTube. You can look for Terra Alpha. They have a
Audio drama.
the audio drama is really good. I am actually listening to it myself, so I strongly recommend.
And it's a very short. It's a very short listen too. So like, there's not big compromise on giving away 2 or 3 minutes of your time. And honestly, like, go and join us on Discord to tell us what you think about it. Because I mean, I am a big fan of it, and I like to talk to other people about what they think about it. And I mean, if you like tabletop games, it's a great opportunity to get a little bit more out of Shadow Over Souls IP with the audio drama that he's making.
Yeah, awesome. So what I was going to talk briefly about is the fact that, in the world of AI, like we are today, um, it, it's it, AI is actually being used and is very understandable so for various training programs, including military simulations. For example, AI-driven simulators are used to train soldiers and pilots to respond to various combat scenarios without risk. Um, the cool thing about it is the fact that it could learn from what's happening during a session,
Hmm.
and knowing that you're training someone in a specific scenario, it is smart enough to create issues in a way that it would train that person in the scenario that they are working on. I can speak to it as from the point of view of a let's say, for example, from the point of view of a pilot. um, Most of the simulators could help you train for emergencies. Like, for example, you could have, and this is any flight simulator. You can have Microsoft um, or X-Plane, which, regardless of which one you use, you could actually set it up to where, like, let's say, for example, you want to train for engine, you're losing an engine, right? And you can set it up like that, and you could train.
We
Uh,
should do Flight Simulator flight stream on the server again, man. We haven't done that in a while.
yeah, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's the cool thing about that, is the fact that you could train in a safe environment, and that way, once if the emergency, and I'm talking from the point of view of a pilot, for example, in the event that that thing happened that you're training for, you already had the muscle memory to dealing with a situation like losing an engine on a plane. But in the case of the military, it's a little bit more targeted, because they can actually select the training scenario that they're training for, and train these people on that scenario, which is kind of similar to what it's supposed to be happening on this movie. So I just wanted to talk about that because I found that fascinating, and I have a direct perspective since I use a simulator for flight. So
I like the way you said "supposed to be happening." Well, that's not supposed to be happening. What the hell? Oh dear. Well, that was an interesting conversation, wasn't it? Thank you for
Hell
joining
yeah.
us. Thank you
Oh
for
my
joining us for another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. If you want to continue the conversation, of course, there's way more about this movie we could talk about, but we've already held you up long enough, over 3 hours now. But do join us on our Discord. Pretty easy to join. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can just scan that QR code in, and it will get you an invite link to our Discord server. Now, of course, if you don't have Discord already, you will need to sign up and get an account, but it is free. And then you either get the app on your tablet or phone, or you get the app on your computer. And I have it running on pretty much everything and chat to these guys regularly through Discord. And Discord's a great way to hang out, find out what's happening with your favorite podcasters, and it's a lot of fun. So do consider joining. There it is. Geo is showing you the. Is that the Apple App Store or the Google Play App Store? You're muted.
Apple, but it's in both places. So if you put
Yeah.
Discord, you'll
There is.
find it either way.
And of course, there's probably thousands by now of other Discord channels out there for all sorts of topics that you may be interested in. So you can use Discord, give it double duty. And
But this
check
one
out
is the
some
best
other
one.
Discord
This one is the
people.
best one, okay? So don't miss out
Yes.
on it, because I'm
Well,
on
you
it.
can you can order your Discord channel, so you can put ours at the top where it belongs. So there you go. Of course, we have a couple of websites. The first one is sciencefictionremnant.com. That is the main portal for accessing the podcast. There you can find the latest released podcasts and our back catalogue that you can scroll through. And there's a significant amount of back catalogue there now. So you'll be bound to find something that you're interested in. Of course, we do spoil, as you've probably found out if you're still listening at this point in the show. So you will need to check out the IP before you listen to our podcast. Or, of course, if you don't think it's something that you'll be able to watch, you can always find out about it from us. We also have short reads there to do with science and science fiction. You can check those out, 4 to 5 minutes, so you can catch one in a break. And that will just give you something to think about while you're trudging through the day, waiting to get home and have a bit of fun. We also have thisissci-fi.net. That one is in its early stages. It's meant to be a platform for sci-fi creators. So if you're a sci-fi creator, do have a look at that website. Join up if you'd like, and you too can help grow the site and promote your own sci-fi properties. We have a Substack. Substack's sort of like a post supply platform where you can either log in and read interesting posts from different groups, including, of course, Science Fiction Remnant. You can join up to our Substack and get regular updates on things that we're thinking about and you might be interested in thinking about as well. And of course, there's lots of other Substacks there in the sci-fi genre and various other genres that you might want to look at. So check out Substack and do sign up to the Science Fiction Remnant Substack if you're at all interested. Also, you can find us on Threads, which is part of Instagram. It's sort of like the nice X. So you get a lot of engagement there. There's lots of conversations going on with people who are very keen on sci-fi. So if you want to chat with people about your favorite sci-fi or any other sci-fi IP that you just want to find out a bit more about, if we haven't covered it yet, of course, if we've covered it, you can check out our podcast, but there'll be more conversation going on about these topics over on Threads. So do follow us on Threads and enjoy the conversation there. Of course, creating a podcast is not free. Currently, Robert is covering the costs, but if you appreciate what we do and would like to help out, we do have a Buy Me a Coffee. You can drop a few dollars there and help out the podcast. All funds will go towards keeping the podcast running. So we'd greatly appreciate that if you could help us out there. We do have a hotline, as we've mentioned before. It's 1305-563-6334. That's 1305-563-6334. And Antonio isn't here, so he can't do the...
But operators are not standing by anyways. I can just reply to you anyways.
Okay. You were too close to your microphone.
I'm not as close as him.
No, he's got it down pat. But do leave us a call there if you're so inclined. We're happy to hear about what you thought about any of our past podcasts or the current one. Or you can tell us about what you're doing or just talk about your favorite sci-fi IP. So do leave us a message. Of course, we're very happy to take 1-star reviews. Gio's waiting for his first one because he says he hasn't made it unless he gets a 1-star review. So if you want a 1-star review, the man, go for it. And of course, if you're happy for us to do so, we will play your message on a future episode and we will talk around it. So do be involved in that fashion if you so desire. Again, thanks for joining us. Check our back catalogue for IPs that you enjoy and we have covered in the past. Also free to reach out to us on Discord if you have an IP that you're really keen about and we haven't covered yet, because we're always looking for something new in science fiction and we'd love to get your take on it. Of course, Antonio joined us tonight just on spec because he joined our watch parties. So if you Discord and catch up with our watch parties and you've got some really interesting things to say about an IP and you're keen on coming on, you are quite welcome to do so because we record generally after we have a watch party. So if you've got the time and the interest, do join us for our watch parties and you two could come on and talk about an IP that you're very keen about. We'd love to have you too.
Watch party is just like the foreplay before the podcast conversation goes on.
And on that delightful comment, we'll call it a close. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again on another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. Bye for now.
See you next time.